Class is in session, hitting the books, the college football show with yours truly, Ian Cameron and Connor Mack, with you once again for another week of college football action, week 4, Monday, September 16th, and looking forward to breaking it down. Do have a guest scheduled, but to be determined, he's trying to make it for a little bit before the top of the hour. If not, we'll get him back on another week. But C-Mac, it's another terrific week of college football, very entertaining. Wasn't the best slate of games, quite honestly. Overall, there was no ranked matchups, ranked team versus ranked team over the weekend, but it ended up
Wow, there wasn't one?
I don't think there was one with a ranked team versus a ranked team all weekend long. But there were some interesting matchups, and it ended up being a good weekend for me in the college side of things, a profitable week. How did the week treat you?
About almost even. I still have to finish the records right around there, but I'm basically almost dead even. I might be down a little bit, maybe like under a game. So it was just back and forth. A few of these games we'll get to them. A few of these dogs didn't come through. I stayed off Bama. Whether Van Dyke got out, that helped. I thought they were going to win no matter what, even with it. No offense to anyone that had it. But there was a few other games I kind of stayed off, but that happens on every card. But a little bit of back and forth all week, and pretty much a dead even for me here. I have the wins and losses down the line too. We could go over them. I can real quick if anybody ever wants that.
No doubt.
Hit it in the comments section if you want to roll off all our games or wins and losses and stuff.
Yeah, it was a profitable week. It was actually one of the better weeks for me. It was kind of up and down the first
few,
but nice to get in the win column. And like I said, now we're getting more games under the belt for every team. So I find now that we've seen these teams now multiple times. You got more of an idea of strengths and weaknesses, who's really good, who's really bad, who's kind of mediocre, inconsistent. So you definitely have a better idea of how these teams are faring now at this stage of the season compared to when we were going into week 0 and week 1. But shout out to everyone for joining us once again. And yeah, I thought for sure they couldn't have done any worse, Wisconsin, than Tyler Van Dyke at quarterback. And then they put Braden Locke in. He might have been even worse. So that tells you all you need to know about the quarterback situation right now for this Wisconsin team. But nevertheless, we've got definitely, as far as bigger games and ranked opponents playing each other, we definitely have a bigger and more intriguing slate coming up to break down. So we'll get into it, and we will begin, as we always do, with the weeknight games. We have one game only Thursday night, and we go to the Sun Belt for this matchup. South Alabama and Appalachian State. We've got the App State Mountaineers, 7.5-point home favorites in this game, 64.5 being the total here in this one. App State with a escape of a win against East Carolina over the weekend, but they did not cover in that game. 21-19 was the final score. East Carolina got the money. If you got them early, they got the money, which I did. It was one of those games where, better game from Joey Aguilar for sure at quarterback for App State. Still had trouble running the football, though, against East Carolina. But the defense was better, especially against the run. They really clamped down pretty well. Only 98 rushing yards after Clemson did anything they wanted against App State's defense. We'll see how they fare here. South Alabama, look, 87 points last week, albeit against FCS, Northwestern State, and not a particularly good FCS team. They were laying 37 in that one, 87-10. They actually didn't even finish that game, kind of like a mercy rule type of deal. Didn't even finish that game because the score was so lopsided. Before that, though, against Ohio and North Texas, the two FBS teams that South Alabama played, they gave up 27 in a loss straight up in ATS against against Ohio. Another straight up ATS loss as favorites against North Texas, 52-38 in their opener. Not been very pretty defensively. I think this team misses Kane Womack, the old head coach, who's a very good defensive mind. Just a hunch, because this has not been the same South Alabama defense. Throw out the Northwestern State. I couldn't care less that they only gave up 10 points there against the teams that were somewhat capable and competent. They couldn't stop anything. So I think South Alabama is going to probably be in tough here. I'm still not sold on the App State defense, so I get why the total is 64.5 and why they're betting it up, because it opened 62.5 in this game. I already got in on this over at 63. 63 is what I got. It's gone up even since then. I agree. I think the offenses are the better side of the football for both of these teams. I'm still not sold on the App State defense. And I will say this, he's getting more and more comfortable with every game, is Gio Lopez. I really think there's a good future for Gio Lopez, the South Alabama quarterback. He keeps getting better every week. So I like points in this game. I think it'll be high scoring. Side-wise, I don't know if I want to take either side. I'm not laying 7.5 with App State. This has been an overvalued commodity here early in the season. And the one thing I will not do is when I see a team that's 0-3 against the spread, the betting markets have clearly overvalued App State. I'm not going to make an excuse to back them and bet on them until I see them cover a point spread. And that is something that App State has not done yet. So I guess I would lean dog by default, but I do like the over more in this one on Thursday night in a little Sun Belt, Fun Belt action. C-Mac, what do you think here? South Alabama, App State.
Yeah, and kind of depending on where you got the number with whether you won or lost with App State. One thing right off the hop here with App State. Let's get to the side. Laying more than the touchdown. I know they're at home. I can't do it. Not with this defense. Both these defenses are awful, especially against the pass. Going through, they're both rankings, I think, are like 116 and 117. They're basically giving up 270 a game just to start this year. They haven't been very good. Out South Alabama. That was a great win. And that game flew over. It was like over at freaking, not even at halftime, in that one. And even that game against North Texas, the first one, where they lost 52-38. How can you not like this over? I mean, that's just right what I went to. And especially if you got in early. I think even at 64, it's fine. I don't know how we don't get a bunch of points until I kind of see any defense from these teams. Last week, ECU, if you had them jump out, Bavano, and then to just have a horrible second half, we're going to get to a few of those teams. A few teams got me this last week with just horrible second halves. And we see it a ton, like even the NFL, just from half to half. These teams just totally different. Of course, there's adjustments and everything like that. But sometimes, is this the same football team that I just saw, 30 minutes ago, right before halftime? And yeah, they came back. It was good. They put up a ton of yards, 424, still turnovers. They're still just sloppy with the ball a little bit. So I could just see kind of one of those. Maybe, fumble score, multiple scores, maybe special team scores. So I agree with you here. Over. And no way. I kind of lean South Alabama if I had to take a side.
Another thing, too, South Alabama's playing faster on offense. Not blazing fast tempo, but they're definitely getting to the line of scrimmage.
Picked it up a little bit
last year. No question. And they're a much worse defensive team. So you factor that in. That's why we've seen, I think, 2 of the 3 games go over the total so far. The only one that didn't was Ohio, but Ohio plays slow. Their offense lost a bunch from last year. But everything else, it's been high scoring affairs with South Alabama. All right, let's go to Friday night. We've got 3 pretty interesting games, actually, on Friday night. We start with an ACC matchup. Yes, that sounds weird. I'm still getting used to saying an ACC matchup involving Stanford taking on Syracuse at the Carrier Dome. Syracuse, 9.5-point home favorites, 57 being the total in this game. I was very impressed with Syracuse and their home win against Georgia Tech just a couple of weeks ago. Played a really strong game. They're off a bye week. So is Stanford. So there is no advantage either way. Both teams coming off a bye. Stanford, they lost 34-27 at home to TCU, but they covered the number thanks to that last minute field goal that they kicked to get inside the number in that loss to the Horned Frogs. Then they bounced back at home and whipped Cal Poly 41-7. Syracuse, though, like I said, 2-0 to start the year. Ohio and Georgia Tech, the 2 home wins. Ohio, they looked a little leaky on defense. Georgia Tech, I thought they played better on defense, although in the fourth quarter they kind of fell asleep with the big lead. Georgia Tech got back into that game, but a little bit too late. Syracuse was able to hang on for the 31-28 win. Definitely impressed with the Ohio State transfer, Kyle McCord at quarterback. He's definitely played well for the Cuse early on. You know what I find with Syracuse? They just look like they have a lot more talent, just a lot better players. Sometimes it's really that simple. And I think Fran Brown, the new head coach, has done a nice job. He's clearly recruited better players than what Dino was bringing in here to Syracuse, because I find they got more team speed. I find they've got more game breakers. They got more weapons on offense. Yeah, the defense is still in work in progress, but I like LaQuint Allen. This Oronde Gadsden, man, at receiver for Syracuse. He's something else. He's a really good receiver. So that's clearly going to be an issue for Stanford, probably having to defend him on the perimeter. He's a tremendous receiver. Stanford, we still, I think on offense, there's a lot to like. It's Ashton Daniels at quarterback. I think a guy that's growing into the role, getting better, dual threat. He can run with the football as well. I think they've definitely got some weapons. Ayamanor, of course, at receiver for this team as well. So keep an eye on that. Tiger Bachmeyer. There's definitely some guys that can catch the football here for Stanford. I think their O-line's a lot better. How good is the defense? That's probably still the question mark that we have about Stanford. They did struggle in that second half against TCU, and that's when the Horned Frogs got it going in the second half. Stanford had a really tough time slowing them down and stopping them in that game. So that would be the concern for me. Obviously, look, it's a West Coast to East Coast travel. These are the kind of situations you're going to have now for Stanford and Cal in this conference. But again, CMAC, it's off a bye week. So if they had played last week, this would be a worse spot. This is not as bad for Stanford from a travel situation, considering they have the bye week coming into this game. So they do get that extra time to really get themselves situated here in upstate New York for this Friday night game. I'm tempted by Stanford. I think they're going to be one of those teams that's capable of hanging around. We saw them cover as dogs at home against TCU. I'm still a little bit, got to see more from Syracuse. I think they're very good on offense. I still think I have to see a little bit more on defense from the Cuse before I'm ready to lay almost double digits. So I lean Stanford. I also lean over here in this game on Friday night. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, real quick on that last game. Why the over so much too? You mentioned the pace of play and the snaps plays per game. 7th with South Alabama, and 20th, and App State 7th. So yep. When I saw that the last few weeks, it's worked really well. Defenses in the bottom tier, and then tempo of the offenses top. You know what I mean? It's just a good way to look at it with that over. Yeah, let's get to this one. Both teams off bye weeks here, Bavano. So they've had plenty of time. Yep. Stanford had that game against Cal Poly. Easy win. They're not very good, 41-7. And they hung around. I think they can hang around here. I like Syracuse. That's the key. Are they good enough right now, the defense, to lay doubles at home? I kind of lean Syracuse. I just don't know if I trusted them that much. They got the big win, Georgia Tech. I was on them. And kind of the last few touchdowns, that was 31-14 until about the fourth quarter. But they gave up some junk points. And, Haynes King still was able throw it around a little bit, 266 and a touchdown. But McCord, great again, 381, 4 touchdowns, and he should carve up Stanford. Secondary, dead last year against the pass, this team.
That's the concern. Syracuse pass offenses look great. It's probably their strength. They gave up 353 through the air to Josh Hoover and TCU in that first game, Stanford. Yep, that's secondary.
It seems like this is 350 for sure. Maybe team total here then. I kind of lean to the over.
If you're in a player prop, C-Mac, take McCord over passing yards on Friday night. That's probably good.
I'm sure it's going to be high, but yeah, take a look at that. It seems like he's going to get there. I thought, too, the total was a few points too low at this number, just because what we've seen, and a lot of these games have ended up 59 for Syracuse and Georgia Tech.
Key number, 31-28. That was the score of the Syracuse-Georgia Tech game, 31-28, 59 points.
Yeah, 59. You get those key numbers, 59, 52, 51, where they land on right there, 54. So I think Syracuse is the side. I kind of lean to this over a little bit. Maybe I just think Syracuse defense could maybe stepped up just at home, ready for Stanford here. I like Daniels. There's not enough. Stanford was just not that good of a dog last year. They got it done for me against TCU. That was at home. And that game slipped over. I think we just look, if you don't want to lay it, I kind of like the over or just the Syracuse when we get their team total. It seems like they're going to at least get here mid-30s on the Stanford defense. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. It's very interesting because you mentioned how in the last game, too, with South Bama and App State, how they're top, in the top 10, top 20 in plays per game, yet they're not even top 25 in plays per minute. So what I'd like to see is, stats that balance the two, because plays per game does matter, but plays per minute is actually a very, very good statistic.
What do you have them on the minute here? I got to hit it in. What do you have them on the plays per minute?
Plays per minute, I got them closer to like 29th, 30th, both of those teams. That's still like upper half.
Still pretty good.
Football. Yeah, exactly.
That works. I like to see that. Yeah, top 40, top 30. Okay.
Yeah, no doubt. So you got to look at both, because plays per game it's still a good stat. It's still a good metric to use.
It's showing you're playing fast. That's it.
Yeah. Plays per minute, I think, is even just a touch more accurate, because it shows you how quickly you're snapping the ball, how quickly you're getting up to the line of scrimmage and running the next play. So I like to look at both of them, and then kind of like an average of both: plays per game, plays per minute, as far as talking about pace and tempo for all of these college football offenses. Here's a game where we're not going to see any pace and tempo: Brett Bielema versus Matt Rule, and run-heavy offenses, both sides. Illinois and Nebraska, 9-point home favorites. Nebraska, 43.5 the total. Great Big Ten matchup as part of the new Friday night college football television package that Fox now has. They started it last week with Arizona and Kansas State, and now they got this one here on Friday night in Lincoln. I shouldn't say Nebraska is a total run-heavy team. They'll throw the ball because they've got a quarterback that can actually throw the ball pretty well right now, and Dylan Raiola, the freshman. Illinois is still definitely a run-first offense. There's no question. They don't want Luke Altmaier throwing the ball 30, 40 times a game. Nebraska, look, I've been hesitant to say they're back. I've been hesitant to say that they're ready for upper echelon Big Ten territory, but they've looked the part so far. Destroy UTEP at home, crush Colorado in that big Saturday night game a couple weeks ago, absolutely hammered Northern Iowa 34-3. Now, it was a bottom feeder UTEP team in the FBS, an FCS team, and Colorado was clearly a little bit overvalued and overrated. So this is going to be a little bit more challenging here. Illinois, who we already have seen them start 3-0, including a nice home win against Kansas, but haven't been on the road yet. And this will be a loud, raucous, fervish, that's the word, environment in Lincoln on Friday night, on a national TV game as well. So I'm not ready to trust Luke Altmaier on the road against this defense, C-Mac, flat out. Okay, I know, credit to him, and they got the win against Kansas at home, but Kansas defense ain't Nebraska's. We just saw Kansas lose at home as almost double-digit home favorites against UNLV on Friday night. This is a very good Nebraska defense. The way they shut down Shedeur in Colorado, I was very impressed. Say what you want about how the O-line for Colorado is still an issue, but that Nebraska defense looks like they're no joke. And they were pretty solid last year, too. Kept them in a lot of games. They're even better, and now they got some offense to go with it this year for Nebraska. So been impressed. I'm not stepping in front of Nebraska. I would lay it or pass in this game. You've got Raiola playing well. You've got obviously pretty good running backs too, in Dowdle and Johnson for this team as well. And then, of course, you've got Jalen Lloyd, Carter Nelson leading them at the receiver position. There's a lot of weapons. The O-line's much better. They're not turning the ball over, which has been an issue in the past for Nebraska. Illinois first road game. And here's the problem. If Illinois falls behind by 2 touchdowns or more in this game, do they have the offense? Is Luke Altmaier good enough on the road in this environment, Lincoln on a Friday night against this defense on the road, to lead them back? I'm not so sure he is. So I'm leaning Nebraska. I think the total 43. I kind of lean under, but man, 43.5 is pretty low. But I would still think under would be what I prefer for the total here on this Friday night Big Ten clash. C-Mac, what do you think here? Illinois, Nebraska.
Yeah, this is one like on a total. I kind of wait. I don't think like it's really going to move. I don't know if it drops too much lower, even though I think this is a defensive game. I think it kind of stays around here. I doubt we go down to like 41, but maybe. The defenses have looked pretty good. Both these teams have cashed for you if you've backed them, depending on last week. Some people like pushed with that game against Central where they won 39. It was just kind of like a workman type game, and the defense looked good. They gave up some yards to Central where I think they could dominate, but they couldn't do anything. They couldn't score a touchdown. It was 3 field goals. It was just kind of, we're at home, bend but not break for them. Altmaier was good. Again, this is I have the problem though. Excellent. I mean, 242, 2 touchdowns, but this will be on the road where I worry about him. where I see some of the ghosts of the past. Yeah, Nebraska. I just have to, you hit on it because I remember talking about before the year. I thought the Nebraska defense was excellent, and they're daring me. They keep winning these games. Wow, maybe they can win 10 games this year. Riles looked really good, even though he's just God. He does this. I saw a video. He's just like the same movements as Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry, I have to bring it up. Like his pregame stuff, the shades, the hair.
He's a poor man's Patrick Mahomes right now. Yeah.
His throwing motion. It was pretty wild. The little video clip that I saw, it was like 2 minutes about it. But he's looked really good. And now he's another home game. He hasn't had to go on the road. You talked about the competition hasn't been great.
No.
For Nebraska. They've had to stay at home. This one will be a little bit bigger. I still can't lay it though with Nebraska. I get it. I want nothing really on this one. I can't take Illinois on the road with Altmaier, even though I'm itching a little bit to it. I don't think I don't know if 8.5 is really enough for touchdown. It could be. Man, I was hoping this was a little bit over 10 to pull the trigger.
He so far he's actually hasn't turned it over yet. Altmaier, I'll give him credit.
No,
but gosh, man, every home game, and Kansas is the toughest team you've played, and their defense doesn't even compare to Nebraska. And now you got to go on the road, and I've just seen too much crap from him on the road, like last year in terms of performance at the quarterback spot. And now you're on the road against I've got to see it before I believe it from Altmaier. By the way, the last two meetings, both games ended in the 30s. Didn't even come close to going over the total. Now, I know Nebraska offense was pathetic the last 2 years, but still, actually 27 points last year. 20-7 win for Nebraska in Illinois. And then the year before it was 26-9 Illinois in Nebraska. So we'll see how this one goes. Like I said, if Nebraska last year beat Illinois by 13 in Champaign, I think they're capable of winning by 10 here, at least at home. So like I said, I lean to the favorite here with Nebraska. All right, the last game for Friday night, San Jose State, Washington State. Washington State 14.5-point home favorites in the Palouse. 55 the total in this game. Actually, it's come down a bit. It's down to 14 now in most spots. So everyone has clearly gotten San Jose State wrong. Everyone thought this would be one of the worst teams in the country this year. Ken Niumatalolo's up against it. Lost so much production last year. Defense was going to be terrible. The offense was going to have major question marks. Totally rebuilt offensive line. And all this team has done is go 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread to start the year. And they've destroyed the point spread. Like the betting markets have been wrong, flat out wrong on San Jose State in the first 3 games. They won and covered against Sacramento State in the first game, 42-24. They won outright as dogs at Air Force, 17-7, albeit not the same Air Force team this year. They're definitely not as good. And then even last week, I took a small little piece of Kennesaw plus 18. I said, this is the spot. Now we're asking San Jose State to lay 18. I know they've been much more impressive than I thought. I'm not sure they're ready for that yet. And sure enough, wouldn't you know it, they covered again. 131-10 Saturday night at home against Kennesaw State. The key for them is, look, this defense, they're getting after it. The multiple sacks, they're doing a good job against the run. Kennesaw couldn't run the football a lick against them. Their quarterback, Davis Bryson, wasn't great. So their defense has clearly played way better than I thought so far this season. I thought they were going to be an awful defense, and they have played great. Now, this is going to be tougher, much tougher, obviously. A huge step up against Washington State. And the way John Mateer is playing at quarterback right now for Washington State, it is going to be a tougher ask. But San Jose State's own offense, Emmett Brown, they found something here. Emmett Brown's been really solid at quarterback. 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 61% completions. He's got the ability to move around a little bit as well. And more importantly, I think I'm ready to call him one of the best receivers. I don't know if overall in the country, one of the best receivers in the group of 5. That's for sure. Nick Nash, who actually started his San Jose career as a quarterback, and he's converted into a receiver. This guy every week is putting up video game numbers. 225 receiving yards last week against Kennesaw State, 3 receiving touchdowns. For the season, this guy has 485 receiving yards. He has 6 touchdowns already in 3 games. There's a great connection that he has with Emmett Brown. Bottom line here is when the betting markets are, and this happens every year. There's teams that start the year 3-0 against the spread. The betting markets have clearly undervalued them, and then there's teams that start the season 0-3 against the spread, and the betting markets have clearly overvalued them. When I see that happen, I am not betting against a team until they give me until I see them fail to cover a point spread for the first time. I ain't stepping in front of them. Period. So I'm not stepping in front of San Jose State here. They've clearly been undervalued. The betting markets have been off. And until I see them correctly, power rate this team and price them correctly for the first time, which they have not, I'm not betting against them. Simple as that. So for me, by default, it's San Jose State or pass. And you can't love the spot for Washington State. You're coming off the huge Apple Cup win against Washington last week. A very impressive win outright as underdogs against the Huskies. You win the Apple Cup, take it away from Washington. Obviously, that's a huge rivalry every year. Will the focus be there to take care of business as a 2-touchdown favorite for Wazoo, albeit even at home where they're pretty good? I'm not so sure. Now, they are 5-0 against the spread dating back to last year. They've been a very good point spread team. Tough to bet against them, but boy, like I said, you can't love the spot. You're off the Apple Cup win. You're back home for this game against San Jose State. And do you know who you play next week? Oh, yeah, you go to Boise, and you take on Boise State on the road. So this is a nasty little sandwich situation here for Washington State. So crazy as it is, I'm leaning San Jose State here in this 3-0 ATS start that they've had. Like I say, you just can't love the spot for Washington State. I lean over, too, because I see Washington State moving the ball. I like their offense. Defense still a little shaky.
Yeah.
I think San Jose State, their defense has been awesome. But how much can you take away from Sacramento State facing them, Air Force facing them, and Kennesaw State? You're facing a real offense here in Washington State now. So I think over 55. Total might be a little light, in my opinion. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, that's what I looked at right at this total for you. I think it's dating to last year. This seems like this would be like 60 or even higher. The games that they played, especially the defense. And I think it's just who these teams have played. And Washington State, a little bit lucky. Texas Tech, a ton of turnovers. Washington would get to them, the mistakes kind of in that game for Fish, everything down at the goal line, that was not great. But San Jose State, Brown has just been really good. You mentioned he's thrown for 300 a game, 9 TDs, 2 picks. He's been really, really good. And ever since they were down 24, I didn't bet that game, but they were on my mind here with Sacramento, Havana in that one. And they caught a lot of love. It basically down to a pick 'em. It was 24-21. They had the lead and just shut them down in the fourth quarter. 3 touchdowns from San Jose State. That was it. 42-24. It was like a 3-point lead to nothing. They just got their ass kicked. And I think that's a little skewed as the defense playing great, but Air Force is really bad. They don't have an offense, and Kennesaw. So I think we get more of the defense a little bit from last year. One thing, San Jose State, though, they went on the road and played great last year. I know Hawaii's beat them up at UNLV. I think they ended up winning that game, at UNLV. I'd have to double check that, but I think they won 37-31 there. They played great on the road. This is the sandwich spot, especially if you got, which there is still 14s, I think. I just know there's a few 13.5s. With Washington State, with that game on deck, Boise, it's just a tough sandwich, even at home. To me, this is the dog here, and I'm right with you. I kind of think the total's light. I just think we're catching a little bit lower total here because everything that's gone on the first few weeks.
All right, we both like dog.
Mateer has been really good too. And that was a great win. I love the win the last few weeks. I've liked them both weeks. Yep. I thought they looked great against.
I was on Wazoo. We talked about it, the Apple Cup.
Mm-hmm.
I think we both like Washington State there as a dog.
Yeah, so just a tough one here for them, even at home.
Yeah, should be interesting. This is actually a very interesting game. You'd think, come on, San Jose State, Washington State, who cares? I care. This is a very interesting game. San Jose State is clearly better than anybody thought. And here's Washington State in a nasty sandwich spot in between the Apple Cup win against Washington and Boise on the road next week. How do they handle this here against a San Jose State team that's clearly outperformed market expectations, to this point in the season?
Two red hot teams, ATS too. Like you're talking, just been making. If you've been backing them, been making you money.
Absolutely, no question there. All right, let's go to Saturday. We've got the Houston Cougars taking on the Cincinnati Bearcats. Cincinnati 5-point home favorites, 48.5 being the total here in this game. Hey, we got to talk about the losses too on this show, and unfortunately, one of them for me was Miami O last week. I took them against Cincinnati, and I still don't think Cincinnati's all that special, all that great. I thought Miami O just fucked up over and over again. Brett Gabbert, what the hell's happened to him? Not the same Brett Gabbert. I think he's been injured too much. He is not playing well this year, and he's been around forever. This feels like his 6th year in college football for Miami O with the Red Hawks.
It's got to be.
He's regressing, man. I'm ready to say it. He didn't look good against Northwestern. He didn't look great last week against Cincinnati. The Bearcats defense, you could say, stepped up, and you got to give them credit, no doubt. But that was inept offense and quarterback play from the Red Hawks in that game. That would be a concern of mine with them moving forward. But look, I'll give Cincy some credit. They definitely were the better team. Full marks for that win and cover. Brendan Sorsby had a pretty solid game. Once he got it rolling, Miami O had a tough time stopping it, and they ended up winning 27-16. This is still a team that blew a huge lead by double digits against Pitt the week before and didn't look great against Towson in their first game. Now they're in the role. I definitely don't trust them in laying more than a field goal here in this game. And from a coaching standpoint, which coach I like better. And it's not even an issue, not even a debate. I'll take Willie Fritz as my coach any day, every day, including Sunday, over Scott Satterfield. There is no question about that. And look, he's got a tough rebuild job, and it looked pretty bleak for Houston after that first game against UNLV. But look what they've done since then. They almost beat Oklahoma on the road, 16-12. The defense was terrific. And then against Rice, 33-7. Very dominant performance from the Houston Cougars. Donovan Smith still is not great from the quarterback spot, but, offensively they did enough. And the defense I couldn't believe it. They made E.J. Warner look terrible. And this is a guy that's been around the block, son of a legendary quarterback, Kurt Warner. And Houston made him look just horrible in that dominant beatdown 33-7 over Rice last week. So I got to upgrade Houston. This is you nearly beat Oklahoma on the road. Your defense has been dominant here the last 2 weeks against Oklahoma and Rice. I got to give you all kinds of credit for that. I'm leaning Houston here. I'm definitely not. I'll put it this way. I'm not laying with Cincinnati. If I'm betting a side here, it's the Houston Cougars side, +5 or pass for me. What do you think here, C-Mac? Houston. I'm neutral on the total, but if this Houston defensive improvement's for real, and it's not like we trust Donovan Smith to go up and down the field, maybe we could lean under here in this game. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I had to be on this under. The way this Houston defense has been playing, and Rice didn't score until like the last minute. Right around there, and that was total junk touchdown. They dominated them. I was shocked.
Oh, the line of scrimmage, Houston owned it big time.
Yeah, this defense has looked great, and total defense. They've been good against both the run and the pass. They're like 14th overall to start the year. And yeah, the offense was just horrible. UNLV kind of got a nice lead, and they couldn't do anything. Yeah, and I don't love Smith. He looked better this week. Houston too. Kind of the end of last year, higher totals, of course, a little different team, but they've been a great under casher for me. 2-8 has been to the under the last 10. Yeah, and the offense got a little bit going. I know it's against Rice, but can they get a little more from some of these guys, Snead and others, Sanford for them? I think they can, and I don't trust it. All Cincy's done is as a favorite. Not big. I know they won last week. There's a few games I'm glad I stayed off. One was Miami O. I kind of like them too, catching the 3.5. I stayed off in the end. It just wasn't a good game from them. But Cincy laying this, they've been horrible against the number. Even winning games, there's no trust with them. I love this under, and I lean Houston too. I think they could keep this game close, keep this game low scoring, tight. Lean on this somewhat. I'm shocked how well the defense is playing. I know it's early, but they played some decent competition here. This isn't like they're not playing Texas Prairie View, and yeah.
Since he's played one good team in Pitt, Miami O is supposed to be good. They don't look as good this year, Miami O. I'm not ready to call them a good team after what I've seen. And then Towson. You played UNLV, who's a very good team. Just beat Kansas on the road, by the way. Oklahoma. Rice is supposed to be a solid team this year, improved and better at quarterback, and Houston just put the fucking blanket on them for 4 quarters. So I've upgraded Houston, and you want to tell me that coaching doesn't matter? You're nuts. Look at this team. Look at the fundamentals. Look at how well they block and protect now on the O-line. Look at how they get pressure on the quarterback. Look at the coverage skills down the field and how they're stopping the run and winning in the trenches. Look how they're not taking stupid, bonehead, fucking moronic penalties this year, which they did constantly under Dana Holgerson. You know, that's coach.
You're right.
That's Willie Fritz, man. One hell of a college football coach right there. It was a great
I
hire.
agree. Those penalties are down. I mean, look at last week, right? I mean, 75 yards on the ground, 24 carries. They threw for 84 with Warner, like you're talking about. And they, you know, yeah, great. Houston, look out. Surprise.
This is what I said actually on the show a couple of times, CMAC. A lot of the times we fall into the trap of saying, well, it's a first-year coach. He's, you know, it's going to be a tough rebuild here, and it's going to take time. It's going to take till year 2, year 3. Sometimes that's not the case. Look at Kirk Cignetti right now at Indiana. How about that? How about that rebuild job? Looks like it's a fucking ahead of schedule to me right now with what's going on there in Bloomington. Maybe it's ahead of schedule for Houston too, because if you hire a phenomenal head coach, and Indiana did with Cignetti, I think Houston's done it with Fritz. You could speed up the rebuild, and it could come quicker and you could actually be a pretty decent to good team in year 1. It's not just automatic, oh, you got the new coach, oh, you're going to suck in year 1. No, if the coach knows what he's doing and he's a damn good football coach, you can have success, I think, in year 1. And we're seeing it with Indiana. Just maybe we're going to see it with Houston. Here, John Sumrall with Tulane, even though they had a tough day against Oklahoma, I thought they were that was a 1-score game in the 4th quarter at one point. You know, there's another one. So, like I said, if you make the right hire and it's a home run hire, even if it's a rebuild job, you can have success still in year 1, maybe quicker, and maybe still be ahead of schedule. All right, we got Virginia and Coastal Carolina. We've got Virginia 3.5-point road favorites, 55 the total. Classic situation where, you know, I thought Temple was so bad that Coastal could just roll them, and it got off to a great start, but I don't know, they kind of shot themselves in the foot. Offense kind of sputtered the rest of the way, and Temple actually dangerously hung around in that game against Coastal Carolina. So bad job by me saying delay the points there with Coastal. That being said, now they're back in a point spread role that we definitely prefer this team. You know, when they're underdogs, obviously their one try as a dog this year came in the first game of the year against Jacksonville State, where they had that 55-27 outright blowout win as dogs. So we know they're better in this role. And I know one thing after last week, and I know Maryland's capable, no doubt, but you know, Virginia's still not a team I'm ready to say, yeah, let's lay more than a field goal on the road. Now, I know obviously it's ACC versus Sun Belt here, but we're talking about a Sun Belt conference that is one of the better Group of 5 conferences in college football. Like I said, I wasn't thrilled with what I saw from the Coastal defense. What does worry me about Coastal, and that's why I'm hesitant to take them as well in this game, CMAC, is you got outgained by Temple last week. That's not a good sign. You know, Temple's offense really had not done anything prior to last week, and Vasco is still a work in progress for me for Coastal. Yes. If they run the football, they can be successful, and they ran the football really well the first 2 games. That's really the key, you know, with this offense, is are they going to be able to run the football against Virginia? Well, if you look at Virginia here so far this season, as far as their run defense goes, they are worse against the pass. They're not great against the run, but they're actually worse against the pass. So it's a question about whether Coastal is going to be able to run it effectively here in this game. Right now, I don't have a strong feel for this game, side or total for that matter. Because the one thing with Coastal is we've seen some overs, but you need efficiency. They're not going to play fast. Virginia won't either. You know, will there be enough efficiency for this game to go over the total? I mean, I kind of like the over with Virginia last week, and it stayed under. You won't get as much pace here. That would be the concern about trying to go over a 55 with this total. Side right now, I lean Coastal, but I'm not running to bet it at the moment. CMAC, what do you think here?
Yeah, this was another one where I think this week it was where I'll take what I kind of my record because I was going to move on Virginia +3. Then it dropped. I stayed off. I moved back to 2.5, kind of right before kickoff, a couple hours before. And this team just totally disappointed. Let's get to their side here. I mean, come on. I mean, it scores 14-13 and just pathetic in that second half. Horrible. 3-and-out punt, pick, 3-and-out, fumble, turnover on downs to end the game. That was their second half. Calandria, it just was awful. And hats off to Maryland. I mean, just dominated that second half in what's kind of a close game after the first in that one. Calandria, like I talked about, 247 through 2 picks. Just turnovers are a killer for them. Now, they've been better a little bit on the road, like kind of last year. They had some better games where they kept it close, but they're laying 3.5 here. Not after what I saw. Maybe they play a little bit better. And Coastal, I mean, another team, foot off the gas. They're up 21-3. They got a quick touchdown, pick 6, and it's 21-3 at halftime. And yeah, it's just kind of let the foot off the gas. One thing, Coastal, they need to run it, and can they do that here? Because they've been excellent. I mean, they've averaged, 250 basically a game. It's got to be top 20. I think it's even higher than that here. But I don't trust Vasco like you're talking about. But, man, I kind of like them here. And with the total, I'd lean over. I don't know if I can even, bet this game. But it seems like that's what Coastal could do. And even, the games before where they dominated, like Jacksonville State, I mean, they gave up some points, even as much as they were running wild there on the ground. So I'd lean the dog and lean over. This is one I wanted to sit with a little bit more with Coastal.
Yeah, this I think moving forward when you fade Temple, you're not going to get bargains, but maybe split it up first half, full game. On some of these games, you worry that a Coastal is going to happen like last week where they get up big at the first half and they think, this is going to be easy. This is going to be a cakewalk. Yeah, and then they fall asleep, little dopey in the second half.
Yeah, totally. And and I always bring it up when you get a team like that, like it's just lay it, but still Coastal on the road, laying almost 3 touchdowns. I mean, near there. It always catches my, my eye when that happens. And look what happened, backdoor.
Yeah, shout out to everyone in the chat. Yeah, you're 100% right there about Christian Washington, Ramon Scott. Good to see Ramon Scott. Yeah, absolutely. He's been a big weapon in the offense so far for Tim Beck and for Coastal Carolina. Shout out to Ramon Scott. Kong's Clips, man, what a start to the season for you. Congratulations. Seems like every week, I think you've had a profitable card every week from what I've seen. So way to go. Great start. Ross Pitts, T-Mac, everyone in the chat, everyone watching on Facebook and Twitter X as well. Hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. We appreciate it very much. Onward we go. I'm going to keep this right up brief. Kent State, Penn State. Penn State 49-point home favorites, 54.5 the total. All you need to know is look at this point spread in total. That here's Penn State 49-point favorites and the total's 54.5. Tells you how much they expect Kent State to score here in this football game. I think you just take another Penn State over. They're going to put like we saw, what did Kent State give up to Tennessee? 70 last week. I mean, this new and improved Penn State offense with Drew Aller and this new mindset under Andy Kotelnicki, the new offensive coordinator, to attack vertically, throw the ball down the field finally. It's about damn time. It's led to big points for Penn State. The West Virginia game, even though the Bowling Green was a scare for them, still put up a lot of points, moved the football. They're going to be able to score almost every drive, you would think, unless they turn it over here against Kent State. I could see 56-3 or 56-0, something like that. 54.5. With these games where Texas is a huge favorite in this range, 30, 40-point favorite, Tennessee, Penn State, these games are going over because these teams aren't taking a foot off the gas pedal. These teams are like scoring in the 40s, scoring in the 50s, scoring in the 60s, scoring over 70, like Tennessee did to this Kent State defense on Saturday. So you won't see me betting an under when I worry that this defense of Kent State's going to maybe give up a touchdown or give up points on every possession, which they're capable of. What do you think here, C-Mac, Kent State, Penn State?
Yeah, this is a blowout. I just don't know how Kent State really does anything. I mean, I don't know. Did they get a touchdown in this game or not? So then
Their
you play
offense is
that.
supposed to be better, but it didn't show up against Tennessee because of who the opponent is. Yeah,
Yeah,
they did
I
move the
mean,
ball against Pitt week 1. They did actually have some
early, right?
success in that game.
That was
Yes,
early in
yeah,
that game.
yeah.
Yeah, they had a few touchdowns. I mean, yeah, they had 10 in the third. Pitt still had their problems now. I mean, they could kind of name their number here, you know. So yeah, I don't know, because this could be 52, 7, and they don't cover. These are just games. I look Penn State's team total. This seems like the classic Franklin, just beat down here, right?
Yeah.
Especially
Again,
after what they've had a week off too, and they kind of played that tight game against Bowling Green.
that's the thing too, and that's something worth mentioning. The last time they were played, and it was at home against Bowling Green. Now it was another MAC team. That's a much better MAC team. Like, who's kidding? Who? Bowling Green's a hell of a lot better than Kent State. Bowling Green could win the MAC. That MAC conference is going to be fun to watch. Bowling Green could win it. Western Michigan could win it. You still got to deal with Miami O and Ohio and Toledo. They're all very capable of winning that conference. That's going to be a very competitive conference this year. Looking forward to seeing how it plays out. But yeah, because they struggled so much with Bowling Green, this could be like a no mercy spot here for Penn State. And they got Illinois after this. It's not like you have a huge game or a huge opponent on deck, and you're coming off a bye week.
Yeah, off the bye week. They could get the over maybe on by themselves, like you
That's
mentioned.
the bet. It's just
56 or 60.
over. They can get 52, 50. I think they get 56, if not maybe 60s against this Kent State team. And then you don't need to worry about Kent State scoring any.
Kent State, this team cannot score. Like the 24 against Pitt, I commend them with that. Because last year, this team's been awful. They can't cover a number. They can't score. They give up over 50, and their games have gone over. You take it back to last year because their defense is so awful.
It was 6 years ago, but last time Penn State hosted Kent State was 63-10 for Penn State. That was Trace McSorley. He was the quarterback that season for Penn State. So they got 63 in that game. So yeah, over 54. I think that's just don't worry about the 40. They could cover the 49 too. Don't get me wrong. They're very capable of it. Wouldn't shock me. But I think 54.5 over is the even better look there if I were to get involved. All right, Marshall and Ohio State, another big spread here. Ohio State 40-point home favorites at the shoe, 51 the total here in this game. You look at this Marshall Thundering Herd team. I guess they were pretty solid in their effort a couple weeks ago against Virginia Tech. They were competitive. Virginia Tech's not been quite as good as I thought they would be, or as dominant or impressive when you look at them with the eye test so far this season. But you do have to give Marshall a decent amount of credit for being competitive here in that game. But so be definitely a much taller order here on the road against Ohio State. They are off a bye. Charles Huff's team. So that is an advantage here for the Thundering Herd. So is Ohio State, though. And the last time we saw them was a 56-0 win against Western Michigan. And you know what's crazy, C-Mac, is they really weren't that good against Akron or that impressive, and they still won 52-6 in that game. Yeah. They didn't cover, but they almost did. If that game has a fifth quarter, in addition to the 4, they probably do cover that game. So they didn't even play great, and they still had 52-6 win. They definitely play, and Western Michigan's a lot better than Akron, and so to see them have a 56-0 win over Western Michigan was impressive. Even without Marvin Harrison Jr., they're fine at receiver when they have this freshman Jeremiah Smith is already looking at terrific. Okay, Buka's still there. Bennett Christian. You've got a great duo in the backfield running the ball with Quinshawn Judkins, the transfer from Ole Miss, Travion Henderson as well. And then, of course, you got Will Howard, a veteran transfer quarterback from Kansas State. Kind of struggled early against Akron, but I think second half against Akron in that entire game against Western Michigan, he was awesome. And certainly like the potential of this offense that Ohio State has. Marshall, what will they deliver defensively? Like I said, 31-14 loss to Virginia Tech. They did cover the number there. And they also had that 45-3 win against Stony Brook. I don't know if I get involved in this one, but again, we're talking about Ohio State scored 52-56 in their last 2 games. And what do we see this total at right now with Marshall and Ohio State? 51. Telling me they can't get over the total, maybe by themselves here or close to it. It's a potential. So this is another one of those big favorite for a Power 5 team. Just like the last game, Penn State, and just like the last game, Penn State, I'm leaning over in this one. as well. CMAC, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Their team total is going to be. I don't know how Marshall scores here. It's just like more than a touchdown.
It's an elite Ohio State defense. It is. It's one of the top 5 defenses on paper. Yep.
And I was a little impressed that for how bad they were, even early. We talked about last week, the quarterback play versus Virginia Tech, them to get 14, because that offense it's just bad. Remember last year they had these games, before they played some cupcakes. Even this year, well, they played. Who was this year? Stoney, UTSA to end the year. They were scoring 9, 6, 9. They get shut out. South Alabama. I don't know how they moved the ball here. At all. I mean, look at this. When you're 40-point favorite, total's 51 here. It's like, yeah, this is Ohio State wins big. They're loaded with Howard until they play someone good where Howard's going to have, get some heat. But, man, they're loaded. Loaded at running back, loaded at wide receiver, and the defense looks great. Seems like an easy win here.
By the way, Marshall, very interesting to point out Marshall is now, see, this is interesting that Marshall, as far as plays per game are concerned this year, they're down, but their plays per minute, they're ranked 7th right now in the country, plays per minute. 2.7.
They had a ton of plays like in that one. They were just sloppy. They were just horrible against Virginia Tech. Yeah.
The thing with plays per game is, like, if you're turning it over, you're not going to have the ball as much. But when they have the ball, they do go fast, Marshall. 7th in plays per minute. So that helps the over because we're going to get more possessions in the game because of that. So, yeah, this is another, just like with the Penn State game, I would lean over here. All right, Michigan State. And then, by the way, Ohio State has Michigan State on deck. So it's not a huge look-ahead spot for the Buckeyes. All right, Michigan State, Boston College. Boston College, 7-point home favorites, 46 the total. Look, Bill O'Brien and the Boston College Eagles have nothing to be ashamed about with that performance against Missouri. They're right there in that game. I thought play here and a play there could have been a different result. They got off to a good start. Offense did bog down a little bit, as that game went along, but definitely a lot to like with what we saw from Boston College, who are now a perfect 3-0 against the spread this year. The outright win is 16.5-point dogs at Florida State. The 27-21 loss at Mizzou last week in a game where, look, it was pretty. Missouri did outgain them. Missouri did get going. They did give up over 400 yards. That's a hell of an offense Missouri has, though, with Brady Cook, with the App State transfer at running back, Nate Noel, with Luther Burden and Theo Weiss and Mookie Cooper, 3 phenomenal receivers. That's a very good offense, Missouri. So I don't give Boston College too much grief, for struggling defensively on the road against that offense. Now you're back home off a tough loss like that. Much more capable, much lighter assignment as far as offense goes. Although after that really bad showing on offense in the first game for Michigan State against Florida Atlantic, they've looked a lot better. Aiden Childs has looked a lot better the last 2 games. They get the win on the road at Maryland as dogs, 40-0. They beat Prairie View in last week. We'll see how they fare here, though. Now they're going on the road. I know they beat Maryland on the road outright as dogs. Maybe that has you thinking it could be live here. Another road underdog role for Michigan State. I just think Boston College may not just be a little bit better, though. They could be a lot better. And I love I'm hesitant, though. Jonathan Smith, you just know the team's going to get better every week. I mean, he's an unbelievably good coach. And all you have to do is see what he did at Oregon State. So I'm not rushing to bet against Michigan State here because of Jonathan Smith. But if you ask me honestly, -7 or better, I would lean to BC. I just think they're talent-wise, roster-wise, they're better. Defensively, they're better. Castellanos, I like the progression and the improvement he continues to make at the quarterback spot. I think he's becoming better as a passer. He does have to still, cut down on the interceptions. He did have 2 against Missouri, but that's a very good team on the road. He still has overall 9 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions this season. So I don't know. I still think there's a gap between these teams. I lean BC, but I'm hesitant because you are getting the Michigan State in the road dog role where they beat Maryland, and Jonathan Smith's that good of a coach. So I may not get there with BC. What do you think here, CMAC?
Yeah, I want to see more because, I'm a big Jonathan Smith. He's a great coach. And that makes me maybe I'll start backing Michigan State because I didn't want to back them at all really last year. They were, I don't think too many people did, and you were successful at all. Boston College, the whole thing last week is a game I wanted to take the points with them, but I was worried Castellanos had kind of a bad game and kind of steamrolled. But I thought the talent was right there, and I think people were too high on Missouri, basically 2 shutouts off 2 awful teams. Where they won 51-0 and 31-0 against Buffalo. And right away, that helped you out was like they got that touchdown right away. BC to just kind of right away they were there, and they kind of faded. They got a late touchdown. They covered, but this is a little bit at this number, man. They're favorites. I know they're at home. I touchdown. This is games where just I really don't want them unless I really find something that I love. I just would rather pass.
All right. I would lean under, too. I think this game could be a little lower. I could see this, and I could see BC covering even if it does stay under. I could see this being like 27-13, something like that.
I don't know enough Michigan State here. I would just, from the quarterback, I got to see more from them.
All right, Kansas and West Virginia. Will it be a bounce back for Kansas? A very disheartening loss. It's back-to-back losses now for Lance Leipold and the Jayhawks. Lost at Illinois, and then they lose at home as almost double-digit favorites against UNLV. They'll try to rebound here in Morgantown. West Virginia, 2.5-point home favorites, 57.5 the total in this game. That's a horrific loss for West Virginia. And I'm not totally upset because, yes, I had West Virginia, but I did have more on the over. I like the over more, so I did get out of that game profitable, but should have been 2-0. They should have won that game. I mean, that's just terrible. A meltdown in the last 5 minutes, 2 touchdowns given up to Pitt and Eli Holstein. Just horrible defense down the stretch. And game they should have won. They were up by 10 with 5 minutes to go and couldn't close it out. And back comes Pitt with the 38-34 win. Can they pick themselves up off the mat? We'll see. Situationally, you got to like West Virginia. At home, they've been pretty good over the years, but they're 0-3 against the spread this year. Now, the one home game was a win against Albany. The other was Penn State, where they lost 34-12. Kansas not as good as Penn State. Kansas, too, the last time we saw them on the road, they lose 23-17 at Illinois. So I actually lean West Virginia, but, man, after that loss, I'm not sure I want to take my chances again with them. It kind of does feel like they might get it done. I think the over is what I prefer. I still don't love what I'm seeing out of the defense. Garrett Green and the offense seem fine to me. They're moving the football. And I think Kansas has quarterback issues. Jalen Daniels, I got to call him out. He's not good enough right now. He has definitely regressed this season. I don't know why. Hasn't been the same. He has been banged up, injured the last year and a bit. Maybe that's taken away from his skill set a bit, but my gosh, he's not playing at the level he did last year or in the past for this Kansas team, and that's definitely concerning, I'm sure, for the coaching staff moving forward. I mean, 50% completions, no touchdown passes, and 2 interceptions against UNLV on Friday night. That's simply not going to get it done. That ain't going to cut it for Jalen Daniels. So, quarterback, are they going to make a switch maybe if this keeps going? That maybe they put in Cole Ballard. The problem is you don't have Jason Bean behind Jalen Daniels anymore. Very reliable, solid backup. Cole Ballard's a bit of an unknown. So I think they're stuck, sticking with Daniels and just hoping he can turn things around here after 2 really rough games for him in a row. What do you think here, C-Mac, Kansas, West Virginia?
Yeah, because West Virginia, it's like the defense. Can they be better here? I mean, they're at home. They've given up a ton to the pass. They just haven't been very good against it. Yeah, and that was a tough loss last week. This seems like a get-right spot for them against the Kansas. I know these teams, too, though, are both, pretty desperate, I'd say, for a win. They're both, 1-2? They both have been 0-3 teams, ATS, too, right?
Kansas beat them here in Morgantown 2 years ago. Outright is
I remember that game. It was a ton of points.
First year. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if you can do that again. Because normally, I want to back West Virginia, but it's like, are we a little bait here? Like 2.5? Just we're under the field goal. It seems too easy. Like these are spots I'd like to be on West Virginia at the house, but I don't know. That's a wait for me. I kind of Kansas. It's just been a little bit slower. The defense has been pretty good. But then they just haven't got it done, and the offense has just been sloppy. Another game where they had the lead and blew it. I mean, that was a big touchdown by UNLV right before the half. That was big to kind of, I think, to 17-13. But it was 17-6. They kind of dominated early, and just, the second half was awful. And you mentioned Daniels. Just, man, where have you been? Earth to Daniels. Maybe the injuries really took a toll on him. He's not the same guy.
All right, we got James Madison and North Carolina next up. North Carolina, 10.5-point home favorites, 47.5 being the total in this game. Obviously, James Madison, but the great season last year. The question marks would be you lose Jordan McLeod, you lose a lot of the production from that great team last year, you lose Kurt Signetti as head coach. How would you respond this year? I don't know if we know yet just how good James Madison is, because you played Charlotte and you played Gardner-Webb in the first two games. And that's not saying a whole lot. And even the Gardner-Webb game, they were 36.5-point favorites. They won by 7. Not overly impressive in that game. Meanwhile, you've got North Carolina. They obviously had the narrow win against Minnesota in their opener. They really haven't played anybody of note since then either, Charlotte and NC Central. So two kind of unknowns. I'm not comfortable laying 10.5 with North Carolina, but I don't know if I've seen enough in James Madison to make me a believer yet. I still need to see more. I mean, to only beat, Gardner-Webb 13-6 and only put up 269 yards of offense and have your quarterback not throw a touchdown pass and throw 2 interceptions, Riddell, who was not very good in that game for James Madison. That definitely does, Barnett, 14 for 22, 135 yards. Alonzo Barnett, he just was not that impressive. Now he's going on the road against, let's say, North Carolina's got flaws galore. We know that. And, of course, they lost Max Johnson for the season. So now they're relegated to their quarterback, too, under center for them in Connor Harrell. So, we'll see how that goes. Now, again, pretty solid against Charlotte. Let's see how he does here against a little bit better opponent. So lots of unknowns here, but default, take the dog if you're not sure. And I still feel a little more comfortable taking JMU plus 10.5 than laying it with North Carolina in this kind of a price range. C-Mac, what do you think?
I think you have to. I mean, with the unknown at quarterback, I think for both these teams, really, but for North Carolina, this team's been awful. This team sucks, ATS. They just can't cover numbers. They couldn't last year. They haven't this year. One game that I wish I put a little bit of money on was Charlotte. And, they were getting 21, and it was still, they barely covered, but they got up some points. James Madison's just played so slow, and they haven't really, the unknown here. They beat Charlotte. They, both these teams, right? They beat Charlotte this year. They both played them. Yeah.
Common
one
opponent.
Week after the other. Common opponent there. I mean, how do you not lean to JMU? There's tons of question marks. North Carolina's their defense. I still don't think it's very good, but this is a low total and not a very flashy JMU offense that's shown here the first few weeks at all. I lean James Madison. How can you not want to take the 10.5 here?
And it might be an under because North Carolina's playing slower now. Quarterback concerns. They've actually been trending under here early in the season. Their defense does look like it's a little bit better. And obviously, James Madison's a work in progress on offense. So, the under might be the look here if you're going to bet the total in this game. All right, Georgia Tech and Louisville. We've got Louisville 10.5-point home favorites, 57.5 the total in this game. Sometimes the point spread just tells you right away what you should be betting. And my thoughts about Georgia Tech whenever they're getting double digits as an underdog. I'm always interested with Haynes King and Haynes, the law firm. Haynes King and then Haynes, the running back, as well for this Georgia Tech team. Their offensive line's terrific. Their defense looked great against Florida State, but a lot of that, as we now know, is Florida State on offense.
It's rough.
And against Syracuse, the next time they played a pretty good team, Georgia Tech, that defense struggled a lot more against Cal McCord. But that was a lot through the air that did the damage against them. Is Louisville and Tyler Shuck? Well, Tyler Shuck might do some damage because he's been very impressive. But again, Austin Peay, Jacksonville State, who are clearly not as good this year and have struggled. They got blown out by Coastal too, and Louisville put a 49-14 win on the board against them. Louisville, Georgia Tech is only Louisville is off a bye. Georgia Tech did play last week, but it's kind of like they did have a bye. They played VMI and they won 59-7. So I still like Georgia. Whenever Georgia Tech's getting double digits, I'm interested. This coach too, Brent Key, has been very good as a underdog. Last year they were great. They were gold as underdogs. Georgia Tech. We already saw them win outright against Florida State over in Ireland. First game of the year as underdogs. Louisville looks good, and Tyler Shuck looks healthy, and Tyler Shuck looks like a quarterback that if he's healthy, he can be really good. And I always said that about him, but he could never stay healthy. He's been very good, but now you're not playing Jacksonville State. You're not playing Austin Peay. This is a much better team, and like I said, I think Georgia Tech's certainly capable enough to give Louisville a game, and that's all they need to do in this point spread range. What do you think here, C-Mac? Georgia Tech, Louisville, a little ACC matchup.
Yeah, that's how I feel. They just need to be in this to give it a game. No Haynes King, which I'm worried, the bad game. Even Shuck, he's just played nobody, looks great. I really loved him at Texas Tech. He could have a pick or two, So, yeah, I beat up Jacksonville State, man, too. We can get to them, I'm sure it will. Whew, what happened to them? No defense at all to start the year. And they beat up on Austin Peay off the bye, and they are at home. I have to take Georgia Tech. This is like maybe this is like public spot with the dog a little bit. But that's the only way I can look. And because I haven't seen enough of Louisville, I like them. I like that they're at home. And usually these games are close. Georgia Tech's even, beat up on them in the past. So, yeah, tricky. Take care of the ball, Haynes King. And I think they'll be fine. And the defense, they gave it up a little bit to McCord and Syracuse. But, I don't want them laying points. They were laying points on the road. Here we go. They're on the road catching 10, over 10. Sign me up.
This year so far, Louisville does have worse defensive number. Now, again, they played nobody.
It's nothing, yeah. But you got to look at these. That's what I was real quick going through them last night. Like, wow, this team's really great. Like when we talked about Houston, they played somebody. Yeah. They've had a couple teams. Or some of these teams that they just beat up on two shit teams.
That's right.
And you can't really.
Louisville is worse against the run, and that's not what you want against Georgia Tech, who are a very mobile quarterback. They run the ball a lot. They're more run heavy than pass heavy. Georgia Tech, but meanwhile, Georgia Tech. You look at their defensive numbers early on, they're worse against the pass, and that does concern me in this matchup against Tyler Shuck. And the passing game has looked really good with Shuck. Now, again, nobody's, but still, it's looked good. And you put Jeff Brom with a good quarterback, and the sky's the limit for the offense with a Jeff Brom coach team if he's got a good quarterback to work with, because he's a great
Stay healthy.
He works great with quarterback. He didn't have that last year with Jack Plummer. Jack Plummer was stunk. Let's be real. Jack Plummer was not that good. He should have been a plumber instead of a quarterback last year.
Ouch. Jack, where are you, my man? I hope you're not watching this.
He awful. I've seen worse, but, man, he was not anything special either. Let's be honest. He's got a better – if Tyler Shuck stays healthy for Louisville this year, Jeff Brom's got a better quarterback to work with. He does. There's no question. And remember, this is a guy that's been around the block, Tyler Shuck. Oregon, Texas Tech. I mean, he's been at multiple schools now. The reason he's bounced around is because of the health issues. But, man, if he stays healthy, he can be – so for that reason, I like the over as well. So I think Georgia Tech can run it on Louisville, their defensive weakness, and I think Louisville might be able to throw it a little bit on Georgia Tech, their defensive weakness. So over 57.5, I might look at that here in this game as well. All right, next up, NC State, Clemson. Clemson, 17.5-point home favorites, 48 the total in this game. I'm not bullish on Clemson, and even I'm having a tough time getting a reason to back NC State here. There's all kinds of – the offensive line's been dreadful. And I think a lot of people thought this offense was going to be better this year with Grayson McCall, but the offensive line's been terrible. I don't think they've got great speed at receiver. The Concepcion's the only guy that can make a play down the field in the passing game. I mean, where the hell's the rest of the receiving core? Where's the game breakers for this team? You just don't – the offensive line hasn't been good. And now to make matters worse, Grayson McCall gets injured last week against Louisiana Tech, and he's out indefinitely. They've already announced that C.J. Bailey, who took over at quarterback in that Louisiana Tech game last week, will start for Dave Doran and NC State here in this game first start officially, and it's on the road at Death Valley against Clemson. And is this no? It's an early start game. That is a good thing for NC State. It's not a night game like the App State game was, but still not exactly ideal to have C.J. Bailey making his first start on the road here against Clemson, especially with an offensive line that is kind of in shambles right now. I mean, that was as ugly. Like Louisiana Tech's not even that fucking good this year, to be quite honest with you. And, there's NC State life and death at home just to get past Louisiana Tech 30-20 last week. Meanwhile, Clemson's off a bye week. Of course, they absolutely got well after that Georgia beatdown, and they laid a beatdown of their own on App State 66-20. This is a pass for me. I can't trust NC State with a backup quarterback on the road and that shambles offensive line against a good defensive front. But am I ready to lay 17.5 with Clemson? No, I'm not. Probably the easiest pass for me. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, you know what? I'd lay it here with Clemson. I kind of
fear that too. I kind of fear that might be the way you got to go. How do they move the football here, NC State? Really? How?
Yeah, and I mean, I saw a little bit. I mean, he was all right against, just a La Tech team. What do you have here? It's 20-30, or 13-20, 156 and a pick.
Yeah, that's the thing. No touchdown passes and a pick against a pretty bad football team at home. That worries me.
Yeah, and they just needed to run it. That was one game where, remember, that total got too low, and I was a little bit. I know it just snuck over. And same thing with La Tech, that I wasn't on them because just how flawed. I just thought NC State is back at home, but I know McCall is just, there's something wrong. Obviously, then he gets hurt. He's out. But yeah, I maybe just go Clemson team total, because one thing I've seen, NC State does not have a defense. For La Tech, and they kind of had success there. Second half played a little bit better to kind of keep that game and win by 10, 30-20. But there's no trust now here on the road until I see anything from them. Yeah, Clemson team total might be a look for me.
All right. Yeah, tough sledding here for NC State. Look, I thought they'd contend for the ACC, and now with McCall out, especially. Not that McCall was great. That's the one thing. It's not like McCall was
he was
up, but the bigger issue is the offensive line. I don't think he could play better, but the bigger problem is not McCall. It's the offensive line. It's not been good enough, period, for NC State. And I don't know if that's going to change on the road here against Clemson, especially with a new starting quarterback. Like, is Bailey being at quarterback instead of McCall going to fix the offensive line? I'm not so sure about that. All right, Miami and South Florida. We've got Miami, 17-point road favorites, total 65 here in this game. Let's do a deep dive here on Miami. Well, because we think Miami's really good, and talent-wise, there's no debate. They're an excellent team as far as just overall talent. Like, that's never been an issue for Cristobal. Like, he always brings in great talent. But it's whether they could put it together on the field, that Cristobal could stay the fuck out of the way and not screw it up somehow. And so far, so good for Miami. The beat down against Florida, but let's be real. They played Florida A&M and Ball State, the last two games. Let's see what they do here now. I shouldn't say on the road for the first time. They were in the swamp. But Florida's clearly pathetic. And so even that one signature win that they have on the road at Florida is not that special now. Florida's just a shit show, and we'll get to them in just a bit. And then they played Florida A&M and Ball State. Now you got to go on the road. And so Florida hung around with Bama, 42-16, a very misleading final score, 30.5-point dogs. That was 14-13 for Alabama going into the fourth quarter against South Florida.
Yeah.
South Florida was right in that game. I like their quarterback here. Byron Brown can run, he can throw. They got a decent run game. And has Miami's defense seen a good offense yet this year? I don't think so. Florida's not got a good offense. And people were going on and on about the Miami defense in that game. Well, maybe Florida's offense just sucks. Maybe Florida's offense is horse shit. Maybe that's the issue. I think they're finally going to face – you could make a case this is the best offense they're going to play this year, Miami. The concern, though, for me with South Florida is, once Bama got going, South Florida's defense couldn't stop them. And then I saw South Florida against Southern Miss, give up 397 passing yards and almost 500 yards last week. That's concerning. And obviously, say what you will, I've got questions still about the Miami defense. The Miami offense is special. Cameron Ward is playing phenomenal. You got to love what you're seeing on offense from this Miami team. They look really, really strong on that side of the football. Cameron Ward's been the perfect fit. He's been awesome. He's been lights out. A.J. Allen, Jordan Lyle in the backfield, Jacoby George, Chris Johnson, and, of course, Xavier Restrepo. Great receivers for this Miami team. I worry about the USF defense here. I like the over. I definitely like the over at 65. I think we're going to see a lot of points here, and I still think Miami's defense is going to face, I think, one of the toughest tests so far, because I think I've got the South Florida offense better than Florida's offense right now, quite honestly. So I like the over. I am tempted by the dog here a little bit. I mean, 17, Miami, the one good win, C-Mac, was Florida. And how good is Florida at this point? Not very. Not very. So I'm tempted by the dog, but I think I like the total even more at 65 to go up and over. Should see a lot of explosive big plays on both sides, especially from Miami if they keep playing on offense the way they have so far this season. C-Mac, what do you think here? Miami, South Florida.
Yeah, Miami just looked really good. Beat up on everyone. Ward looking all world. I've seen this though. It's just the one thing is I don't know South Florida. Can they scheme up some good defense against him? Because last week they had 3 guys to throw almost 400 yards against him.
Yeah.
Like they had 3 different quarterbacks, like all just coming in and out and just throwing it around. Like I was like, wow, holy shit. A little bit different game, but you mentioned, they played Bama. It was right there. They have some big plays, and Bama pulled away. Like these are the classic when Miami's 3-0, 4-0, they lose. That's what makes me want
and people
South
start
Florida,
believing, right? Yeah,
right when they start believing. That's why I want to take
the rug gets
South Florida. So right now, I'm leaning towards them in this one. There should be points. This total's high. But yeah, I'm just leaning the dog here, South Florida.
I am too. Just when you get excited and all pumped up about Miami, the U, and then all of a sudden they yank.
Yeah, and it was the Florida win that impressive. This Florida team is shambles right now.
That offense against that South Florida defense does scare me, especially the passing game. Like he could light up that secondary of South Florida.
Oh, yeah.
That concerned me quite. That's why I like that over. By the way, you're talking about pace. South Florida, number 1 in plays per game, number 5 in plays per minute. So you've got the perfect situation. You got a team that's right up there, number 1 in plays per game and 5th in plays per minute. So you got the combination of the plays per game, plays per minute, one of the tops in the country, South Florida. They play very fast. So it's another reason why I think that game goes over. All right, Iowa, Minnesota. Iowa 2.5-point road favorites. 36 the total. I mean, under or nothing probably. Although I will say this, I've finally come around to saying that Iowa's offense is showing some pulse this year compared to last year. There's definitely been some improvement. There's no question. You got to give it to them. McNamara and Johnson, the running back's been good. I mean, they put up 40 against Illinois State, 38 against Troy. But the one really good opponent was Iowa State. They only got 19, and they did nothing in the second half. Now you're going on the road, and say what you will about Minnesota's offense. Max Brosmer really hasn't clicked yet for this offense. I can't really put too much into the Nevada game. It was such a, Minnesota definitely has the advantage there. Now you're playing an elite. Say what you will about Iowa's offense. It's an elite, very good Iowa defense. So how will Brosmer and the offense move the football here? So I think 36 is low, but I still think it could be low scoring. If you look at Iowa, Minnesota historically, look at the last 2 years, 13-10, 12-10. 23 and 22 points. I'm not looking to bet this thing over the total that much, I know. I'm probably passing. I mean, I'm not laying points with Iowa on the road, but I'm not so sure Minnesota's that good this year right now. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, and I thought kind of the best thing with Minnesota last week was the defense. I mean, they made Lewis just look horrible. I thought, can Nevada go in there, maybe score a little bit, to cover that number? He looked awful. And 3 picks. And, of course, Minnesota at home, the defense looks good. Hand the ball off. Don't throw it a ton. And these games are just so boring. But how about 3 straight overs for him? I mean, I know we were 36, 36, 39. But Troy's pretty bad defensively, a little different. But, yeah, they've gotten over. And I still think that Iowa State game, that they had that flash of the third quarter of a few big plays. It was in, and then that game would have stayed under. But I don't know how you want to take the over in this game at all. And I don't think you're getting enough with Minnesota.
No.
Here.
I think Iowa's the better team still. I do.
I still think they could go in there and win this game. I kind of like them a little bit. I'm not rushing, though, to bet them to lay it. But I think they could beat Minnesota in a close one.
Yeah, Bama boy, if you're going to take Iowa, take money line. This could be like Iowa State all over again, where it's like a 1-point win or something. I could see it because 3-point favorites against Iowa State, the Cyhawk rivalry 2 weeks ago, they lost by 1. So I could see it like a 2-point game. I could see. Hasn't it been like a 2-point game 2 years in a row? Yeah, it was a 3-point game for Iowa 2 years
12,
ago.
10,
and
13.
A 2-point game last year in Iowa, which Minnesota won. So here we go. Yeah. If you're going to take Iowa, why would you not take the money line? Why would you lay 2.5 instead of taking the money line when it could easily be a 1 or 2 point game? Because Iowa's very capable of playing a game where it's exactly 1 or 2 points. So if you like the Hawkeyes, take a money line. Don't lay the points. All right, California and Florida State. We've got Florida State 2.5-point home favorites, 44.5 the total. Well, now you're seeing it, right? The betting markets are crashing down hard on Florida State. This point spread is way up there as almost probably 3 touchdowns, before the season, probably in that range. They'd be favored against Cal. And now look at it. Barely favored, not even favored by a full field goal in Tallahassee here against this California team, which, by the way, did go on the road all the way to the East Coast a couple of weeks ago against Auburn and won outright as underdogs. So put it this way. Here we go again, Florida State. 0-3 against the spread. Betting markets haven't even been close. Probably the most overrated, overhyped, overvalued team in all of college football coming into the season because they were double-digit favorites against Georgia Tech, lose by 3. 16.5-point favorites against Boston College, lose by 15 outright. 7-point favorites against Memphis, lose by 8. Not even close. Like they haven't even come close to covering anything in the first 3 games. You can't touch them. Until you see them cover a point spread, they are a no thank you. Not a chance do I bet Florida State. And yes, this does feel like it's a discount. There are people I talked to last week that thought laying 5, 6, 7 with Florida State against Memphis last week was a discount.
Yeah.
Look how that turned out. They lost outright again. Cal or nothing for me. They probably have the better quarterback too, quite honestly. I like Mendoza. He's a gamer. He can chuck it around a little bit. DJU, man, what a fucking downturn in this man's college career. Holy shit. Unbelievable. They can't run the ball. The offensive line was supposed to be good. It's this defense.
Like I thought they could move the ball against Memphis. 0. Because that Memphis team is not good defense.
40 points the last few years, in a lot of games. So, yeah, this is Cal in the under if I'm betting anything here. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not betting this game, and that's where I'd be. It's just, I know you got to look at it. There's nothing showing here. When does it turn on? When do they start running the ball? Cal's, I thought the defense has been pretty good for him. I guess the one thing you could say is Florida State's defense has been all right, but it ain't good enough because they're fucking losing.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Can't overcome the offensive ineptitude. Yep.
Yeah, and especially if Cal can get some turnovers, obviously like they did at Auburn, they're in this game. I mean, yeah, Cal or nothing for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look, I think it was just perfect timing that in Mike Norvell's post-game press conference after the Memphis loss, the fire alarm goes off. Yeah, fire alarm's been going off for weeks down there in Tallahassee. There, talk about appropriate. Oh man. What a abomination going on at Florida State. I mean, it really started from getting that turned out to be one of the biggest cataclysmic decisions ever to the state of that program when that committee kept them out of the playoff last year. It's almost like they haven't recovered from it. It's wow. It's unbelievable.
Well, maybe it all started with the injury to Travis, but that really the decision.
Yep. Bad times right now in Florida State. All right, Ohio and Kentucky. We've got Kentucky 19.5-point home favorites, 42.5 the total. Kentucky does have some kind of defense. We've seen it. Now, we didn't always see it against South Carolina, but I thought the defense, man, they played their asses off against Georgia. Hats off to them. And I had a piece of I'm not a big under guy, but even I took that game under the total. Georgia and Kentucky. And like I said, I thought Kentucky's defense could do enough because look, Carson Beck and Georgia's offense haven't been firing on all cylinders here the early part of the season, but Kentucky's offense is a problem. Brock Vandegrift is a problem. He's Brock Vandegrifter, as in, grifting people's money from them that bet on him. That's basically what he is right now. Brock Vandegrifter at this point. Just not very good at the quarterback spot. The whole offense has issues. I don't see a lot of game breakers, a lot of talent at the wide receiver position. The offensive line just got crushed by South Carolina, struggled to move Georgia around last week. That being said, they're right there. All they need is one drive, get in field goal position. They couldn't even do it. So, the defense is capable. Offense, not so much right now for this Kentucky team. But now you're playing Ohio. You should be able to flex some kind of offensive muscle here. Ohio with the wins against South Alabama and Morgan State. They did cover the closing number against Syracuse on the road in their first game, 38-22. Bottom line is, look, they lost by 16 at Syracuse. Is Kentucky leaps and bounds better than Syracuse? That's up for debate, but I'm not ready to lay 19.5 with an offense that's struggling to move the football. It's that simple. But am I running to bet Ohio? No. Probably a game I stay away from. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, come on. It's boring here. I under, yeah, that was a great under. That I love.
Going to move the football like crazy on the road against this Kentucky defense for Ohio. I'm not so sure. Parker Navarro, I'm talking about for Ohio.
Yeah, Navarro for Ohio. He had 3 picks against Morgan State. I could see this one just like 24-6, like Kentucky, or they win, or maybe Ohio hangs around. But Kentucky still has a pretty good defense, and they're at home. So I kind of just lean under. I know this is low. That's the only thing I could look at in this one. And like they're 2-1, and they kind of hung around Syracuse, but I still think there's issues. But maybe their defense is a little bit better than what we had kind of given, for everything that has gone on. Especially, I know the offensive side got ripped, but so do a lot of the defensive players. So, yeah, under here, if you got to bet something.
All right, Rutgers and Virginia Tech. We've got Big Ten versus ACC here. Virginia Tech, 3.5-point home favorites, 45.5 the total in this game. This opened 5, so there's been a lot of steam, a lot of movement toward Rutgers. I understand it. I don't want to say Virginia Tech overrated, disappointment, but they've not. Look, they had the Vanderbilt loss in week 1 as double-digit favorites. I don't think Drones, the quarterback, has been nearly as efficient and effective as he was last year. Maybe now that there's a little more film on him, he's been the starter for a while now. Kyron Drones, it's kind of, defenses kind of know what to expect. He's still got to work on his pocket passing ability. Certainly Virginia Tech, the last couple weeks, it's been better. I thought the Old Dominion game was their best game, 37-17. Drones ran the ball for 117. Bayshall Tutton for 115. They're renting the ball right down Old Dominion's throat. Will they be able to have that success here against Rutgers doing that is the question. If you look at Rutgers, they beat Miami in the bowl game last year, although Miami did have some opt-outs. And they played Howard and Akron so far. So you really can't glean too much from what Rutgers has done, but this is a physical football team. Their run defense is pretty solid. And the thing with Virginia Tech's offense is, Drones is still trying to polish being a pocket passer. His strength, I think, is his athletic ability and being able to run. Could this be, maybe a decent defensive matchup here for Rutgers going into this game? So that ends up being the question. 3.5, no. If it gets to 3, though, I think that's you've missed out taking Rutgers, because you are still talking about Blacksburg. Pretty good home field for Virginia Tech, especially now that they're a little bit better. But I get it at 5-4.
Callie and Manis, your guy?
A little bit. What do you think here, C-Mac?
I know, but Kaliak Manis?
On the road, yes. At some point, he's going to have to throw the ball, and he didn't have to do it against Akron and Howard.
This is what
here.
Yeah, I don't trust Virginia Tech. Look, I thought they played well, especially in the second half. If I would have known, too, because I had won like 10 straight bets with Old Dominion that Wilson was out, I would have pulled that. But with these college coaches, most don't tell you anything. Like all it was, he's banged up, but I thought he'd play. And the two guys, Joseph and Hinkle that came, it just looked awful. And they hung around the first half. It was 14-10, and they just got kind of blown down. You mentioned Virginia Tech just ran the ball, and it worked, which I thought Old Dominion did a better job, at least the first couple games of the year against South Carolina. So kind of shitty whole way around for me in that game. So, yeah, but I don't trust them. I think at home, I'd lean their way. But I think this is kind of a dogfight, maybe close game. So just in the end, I want off.
All right. Next up, we have, let me just see here. There we go. Kansas State, BYU. K-State, 7-point road favorites, 47.5 the total. Bounce back for Kansas State. Let's give them credit. Tulane, they did, well, I shouldn't say bounce back because they beat Tulane, but it was not a great performance, especially on defense. It was a bounce back for their defense because their defense did suck against Tulane. They got ripped apart on the ground through the air. It was a lot better against Noah Fifita and Arizona last week. They pulled away, and really that defense shut them down in the second half. So really after the first drive, Arizona went bam right down the field and like, uh-oh, here we go again with this Kansas State defense. Then Arizona did nothing after that. Kansas State shut them down from that point on. So give the Wildcats defense credit. But now they're back on the road laying a big number. I don't like them as much on the road. We saw it with the Tulane game. Manhattan's a tough place to play. Manhattan, Kansas, the Little Apple. Now you got to go on the road to Provo. And look, BYU's done nothing wrong so far. Can you quibble about the strength of schedule for BYU? Maybe a little bit, because I think SMU's a little overrated, but still to be able to beat SMU, like BYU did, pretty impressive. 18-15, beat the hell out of Wyoming, which we thought they could and they should have, 34-14. They've now covered 5 straight, dating back to last year. They covered 2 in a row as a dog to end the year against Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Retzlaff, the quarterback is solid. They've got, some decent options at receiver for this team. The offense keeps getting better. They are banged up at running back with L.J. Martin and Hinckley Ropati, so keep an eye on that. But Chase Roberts, Cody Epps, Darius Lassiter, got some good receivers.
Roberts is
a little
good
bit here with BYU in this spot. Again, we've seen it with Kansas State. Laying bigger numbers on the road, not always reliable. What do you think here, C-Mac? K-State, BYU.
Yeah, I was just saying that Roberts is a good target for them. K-State, I was impressed. Arizona, in the end, that game, I just something kept me. I just wanted to stay off. But they score right away. They take a 7-0 lead and nothing else the rest of the game. I always have to give credit. That's why even in this game, there's been problems with K-State in the first half, even on the road. They've been a little bit better in the second. But after that touchdown, they played great. And Arizona kind of moved the ball, and then they just turnover on downs. Like they just couldn't do anything. They couldn't score. But it's not like they were totally getting shut down. This is a tough spot. They get the win scrap against Tulane. Then at home, Johnson here, he can run, but I think he could make a few mistakes. And look, BYU 3-0. This team, I think they could get to 4-0 here. This is a tricky one that I think could be close. I'm definitely on BYU with 7 on the hook in this game.
I am a little concerned about the run defense. There have been times last year BYU people would run it down their throat in case first. Avery Johnson, DJ Giddens, the running back, they definitely are better running the football than throwing it. So does BYU
their home numbers have just been better for the most part than if they go on the road.
Interesting game though. It's an interesting one for sure. All right, we stay in the Big 12. Baylor and Colorado. We've got Colorado 1.5-point home favorites in Boulder, 53.5 the total in this game. I guess you could call it a get-right spot for Colorado. They really dominate their Rocky Mountain Showdown in-state rival, Colorado State, on Saturday night. We'll see if they can maintain the good vibes. And, of course, before that, they got just crushed by Nebraska. So it was a nice bounce back for Deion Sanders and Colorado. Now they're back home against Baylor. We'll see. Baylor's one of those teams that has been definitely better than I thought. They've played better than I expected. Now, Tarleton State and Air Force is way down this year, but still to beat them 31-3. That's why I laid the points with Baylor. I said, you know what? Baylor's impressed me a little bit more than I thought. Air Force is down. I think they can win this game by a big margin, and they did. I laid 17. with Baylor against Air Force. They won 31-3. Easy win and cover there. And even the Utah game. Look, I know Cam Rising got hurt and Isaac Wilson had to take over, and he was pretty rough at quarterback, but Baylor didn't quit. Down 23-0. They pitched a shutout in the second half. They covered the closing number in that Utah game on the road. That's positive signs for Dave Aranda's team. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how they fare here at quarterback because Sawyer Robertson got the start against Baylor. They've kind of soured on the previous quarterback they had starting there for them. So it's going to be interesting to see DeQuan Finn. He struggled. And look, didn't I say this? Like, this is a guy that's not exactly a great pocket passer, and he doesn't have this athleticism works against MAC defenses. When you're facing, a little bit better defenses on the other side, it's not as easy. So they go to Sawyer Robertson. The move worked. He played very well. They're probably going to stick with him here against Colorado. I'll be honest. Colorado, that was their first point spread cover this season against Colorado State. They 0-2 against the spread before that against Nebraska and North Dakota. Last time they were home favorites, they won by 5 against North Dakota State. I actually lean Baylor a little bit. I still worry about this team in the trenches. And by the way, Colorado State just might be god fucking awful because they got absolutely destroyed by Texas. They get destroyed last week. That they didn't look good on defense. They didn't look good on the offensive line either, Colorado State. So, I don't know. Baylor to me, I would lean that way here. I think they got a chance maybe to go in there and win. I'm not ready to take Colorado as a favorite. And by the way, about the whole shenanigans too with the two teams, Colorado State, with what was said back and forth, what Braden Fowler-Nicolosi said about Colorado, and then Shedeur Sanders after the game with the not shaking his hand. Shake his damn hand. That's all. Shake it. You kicked his ass, Fowler-Nicolosi and that team, clearly the better team. And even after everything that was said back and forth, he put his hand out there, say, hey, well done. Good game. You're the winner. Well, shake his hand, Shedeur. Come on. That's just being a punk move as far as I'm concerned. Unless someone's a blatant racist or something says something that derogatory, we see it all the time in sports. You could say some of the most crass, just, over the top, vindictive, spiteful shit and smack talking before a game. But when the game's over and there's a winner and a loser, you put the fucking shit aside, you shake hands because it's the right thing to do. And Shedeur Sanders got to do a better job there. Because Braden Fowler, even after he said about the Instagram followers and that, he still came over to him and looked to shake his hand, say, congratulations, you were the better team, better quarterback today. And Shedeur wouldn't shake his hand. That's ridiculous to me. That's not being you got to do that in the professional level. If you get to the NFL, you got to park the flapping the gums and the smack talking and do the right thing at the end of a football game, win or lose, and that's shake the other guy's hand and say, well, good game. He didn't do that. That's disappointing in my book. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, I know. This day and age, it's like, oh, you're talking shit on Instagram. It's
but it's forgotten, C-Mac. After the games end, whatever's
I know. That's why I'm like, that's why you don't bring it up. I mean,
shake his fucking hand. It's the right thing to do. It's the professional thing to do. It's the sport.
And you don't even gotta love it. You just shake their hand. Like, it's not like you got to, do the whole hug and everything. But it's just, yeah.
It's a quick shake of the hand and off you go. If you're still feeling raw about it, yeah. Couldn't even do that. Bad job.
I don't want Colorado here. I don't want much. You know what? One thing, watching at least that second half was a little bit, and they haven't played anyone other than that. They played Utah and the few other teams they have. Baylor's defense has been good, and it shows. Talking about BYU, hadn't played a ton. SMU, they're 13th overall. Baylor's 12th here, just 230 that they've given up. And I think they have the better defense, but I need to see more. I don't know if I can get there here. I kind of lean them. Colorado is at home here. They still can't block anything. The line, they have Hunter, they have Sanders, and is their defense maybe turning around, or is it just an awful Colorado State team? Because they didn't, they looked okay second half, but they were already losing to Nebraska. It was kind of 28-0, right, by halftime. So I don't know how much Colorado's defense has gotten really better. So, and that the quarterback, I know Finn's out. I know his answer, but Robertson, he's not the answer either. I'm just letting you know. I saw him play a little bit last year, so that could be a back and forth the rest of the year in that regard for the Baylor QB.
Yeah, no doubt. That's definitely it. And it's not just that too. It was Dion after the game talking about what Fowler Nicolosi said. Oh, come on, your players have talked some smack too before a game about certain things. I had to laugh when he said, "I don't teach my players to do that." Come on now.
Well, come on, prime time.
Yeah,
Shit,
I disagree.
prime time.
Oh man, just focus on coaching the damn team and getting them ready to play football. That's all I got to say. All right, and by the way, about Baylor, another case of 3-0 against. There's a bunch of these teams 3-0 against the spread. I'm not betting against any team this week that's 3-0 against the spread because clearly the markets have been slow to react, and that's what they are with Baylor right now.
And is there enough for you to bet Colorado here? I mean, like, is there enough that you? I know they're at home. Like, there's not for me. Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean I'm betting Baylor, but it's Baylor or pass for me. It's Baylor or pass for me. All right, Arkansas State, Iowa State. Iowa State 21.5-point home favorites, 51.5 the total in this game. Arkansas State, ugly cover for me against Michigan. I just wasn't convinced Michigan's offense, even against a weaker Sun Belt team, was capable enough to cover a number like that. And Arkansas State got the job done. Iowa State with Rocco Becht. Now they have had a bye week following the big rivalry win against Iowa. We'll see how they fare. But last time they were favored by a bigger number. North Dakota at home, 30-point favorites. They won by 18. And winning by 18 would not even cover this number. So crazy as it is to say, I lean Arkansas State one more time. I like Jalen Rayner. I like Rayner, their quarterback. Arkansas State's pretty solid. You know, that was a very good Michigan defense he played. Yeah, he did struggle. He actually gave way to Timmy McClain, and Timmy McClain actually came into the game late for Arkansas State and moved the football for them. So we'll have to wait and see what Butch Jones does as far as the quarterback spot here for Arkansas State. Last I checked, it looks like for them, both guys are healthy. It was a coach's decision to shake it up. Rayner was kind of struggling, go to Timmy McClain. We'll see what this means but the bottom line is they got quarterback. Neither one is like leaps and bounds better than the other, Rayner and McClain for Arkansas State. But look, I was impressed. On the road at Michigan, they didn't quit. They played for 4 quarters. They got inside the number. Yeah, and we know Iowa State a little flighty when they're laying a big number like this, even though I like Matt Campbell as a coach. But so I lean dog again, Arkansas State. Maybe I'll try to get rewarded by them one more time. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I like the under here a little bit. You know, especially if Arkansas State could just the defense be okay in this one, I think you can stay under. Iowa State wins, but yeah, this is, you know, laying 21.5. Like, they're the better football team, but no way. They are off the bye, off the big win versus Iowa in a really good football game. But yeah, Arkansas State last week hung around. You know, the 2 QBs, if they're going to go to that, I don't know. I don't know if I bet this, but I lean the dog here a little bit, and I like the under.
All right, liking the dog, liking the under. All right, Purdue and Oregon State here. We've got Oregon State 4.5-point home favorites, 50.5 the total. I guess that was Oregon's alarm bell going off on Saturday because that looked like the Oregon that
second half,
we had a chance to see this season. They just completely just owned the line of scrimmage, dominated Oregon State offensively, defensively. Oregon State couldn't get much going offensively, couldn't run the ball at all. Giovanni McCoy struggled, and then Dylan Gabriel got the passing game only 4 incomplete passes. Jordan James, Noah Whittington got it going on the ground. 240 rushing yards, 306 through the air, very balanced, and they beat the brakes off Oregon State in the Civil War, 49-14. So Oregon State looking to lick their wounds, bounce back here against Purdue. Let's not forget that even before the demolition and the 35-point blowout loss to Oregon, this Oregon State team, even with the new head coach, Trent Bray, was looking decent, competitive. And you're not facing Oregon this time. You're facing a Purdue team that I'm not sure how good this team is. You played Indiana State, and then you played Notre Dame, a much better team, and a team obviously that was angry after the Northern Illinois loss, and they played like it. They absolutely annihilate Purdue 66-7. That game was over in the fourth quarter. Hudson Card was terrible. 2 interceptions, only 11 complete passes. Couldn't run the ball at all. And the defense, again, just carved up. 362 yards on the ground. allowed by the Purdue run defense. And look, Oregon State probably prefers a little bit of a balanced offense. They're not a throw it all over the place offense, Oregon State. They want to be balanced, and they do want to run the football. So if Purdue run defense is like that again this week, that could be trouble. And like I said, for for Oregon State on offense, they're definitely a run-first team, and you can't like the way that Purdue run defense played. So I actually think it's a nice little bounce-back spot here for Oregon State at home in Corvallis. Put it this way, I'm not taking Purdue. It's Oregon State or nothing for me in this game. Favorite or pass. C-Mac, what do you think? Purdue, Oregon State.
Sorry, I run the Tega League. Yeah, I mean, hats off to Oregon. I was worried a little bit with Oregon State. I thought the defense needed to play well because I know their offense wasn't the best, but the second half was just it. They just didn't get that first half. I thought and there were some other times they could have scored. I think there was a block kick, an interception, and then they let a couple big plays to Gabriel. He had a big over 50-yard run, but they hung around. But yeah, man, Purdue, this team just got blown out. They have no defense at all. I think this is a tough spot for them again. I don't know how you can look at them. I think Oregon State could kind of control it and win this one. I lean them a little bit. This is one that's a little bit of a wait for me. But how can you not like the Beavers to bounce back at home a little bit?
All right, SEC, Arkansas, and Auburn. We've got Auburn 3.5-point home favorites, 58 the total in this game. I agree with the move to Arkansas. I think they're live. I think they can win this game outright. I'm not saying there's no way I'm ready to declare Auburn's back because they beat the hell out of New Mexico. New Mexico's got one of the worst defenses in the country. No question about it. Just all you have to do is look at what they gave up to Montana State and Arizona. 61 points to Arizona. That's a horrible New Mexico defense. There's nothing I saw from, and I know Auburn, they're going to say with Hank Brown at quarterback, they got the new quarterback. Now they're back. No, that's a horrible defense. I have to see him perform well, lead that offense in place of Peyton Thorne against a little better opponent, and they'll get one here in Arkansas, an Arkansas team that could have beat Oklahoma State a couple weeks ago. Now, they didn't play great against UAB. I will say that. They were kind of lethargic in that game. But once they got it going late, they did enough to get the win. They didn't cover, but they did play better in the second half. I still like their offense. Talon Green has played well. Bobby Petrino's doing a nice job here calling the plays. They're moving the ball pretty well. I like Jaquindon Jackson at running back, Andrew Armstrong, Tyrone Broden leading them at receiver. And the last time we saw Auburn, as favorites against a FBS opponent, a power conference opponent, was Cal. And we know how that game ended. They lose outright as double-digit favorites. So I agree with the move to Arkansas, down to 3.5. I think they're live, down from 5 down to it's all 3.5s are almost gone now. But I still like Arkansas. I like the over too. I think we'll see points, and I do think Hank Brown might be a little bit of an upgrade still from Peyton Thorne. Now he's got to show it against a better defense than New Mexico, but I still think he might be a little upgrade from Peyton Thorne at quarterback for Auburn. C-Mac, what do you think?
Over. This is the over here. It cashed last week. Dan Pierre, he almost had 291.
Both teams, their games went over last week. Yep.
Yeah, they both did. And Arkansas the week before it got there with Oklahoma State.
Still sketchy for Arkansas too. I should point that out.
Definitely, and I like the move. Now, how it's one game with Brown against New Mexico. But this has explosive plays all over it. Sometimes when you get these teams together, you could get just this weird, tighter, maybe lower scoring one. But obviously with these two teams, the SEC, but I don't know how that happens. I think Arkansas too. It's come down a little bit. I think this could be a game they're live, but I still think with this number, we still see some points until something turns around with both these defenses. And turnovers too. I think it gets over.
No doubt. By the way, we've got both of these teams running pretty fast, brisk pace as well. Keep that in mind, especially Arkansas. So keep that in mind. That's going to definitely help as far as the total goes. Auburn's 12th. Hugh Freeze teams always play up tempo, and Arkansas is not as slow as they used to be now with Petrino there. And Petrino plays above average pace. So the pace from both sides
he does.
will help for the total. All right, Georgia Southern, Ole Miss. Ole Miss 35.5-point home favorite, 66 the total. Ole Miss just a point spread covering machine right now. Now, the only question we had about the Wake Forest game last week was, now you're not playing Furman or another FCS team. Are you going to be able to get the job done? for Ole Miss, and on the road this time as opposed to Furman and Middle Tennessee, and they did 40-6, dominant both sides of the ball. Defense has been what's really impressed me for Ole Miss, especially last week. That's on the road. Wake is still somewhat capable on offense, even with Bachmeier, who I don't like. And they made life miserable for him. And as for the offense, it's just explosive. I mean, Jackson Dart is one of the best quarterbacks in the country right now. There's no debate. He's been awesome. Jackson Dart, Henry Parrish running the ball, Trey Harris, receiver, unbelievable skill position group, great offensive line. Lane Kiffin's play calling and offensive mind. Yeah, that's a bear of a team right now. Or a bull of a team, I should say, right now. This Ole Miss, they are rolling right now, and I don't know if Georgia Southern is going to be the defense to slow them down. This is another team, Georgia Southern, top 25 in plays per minute. They play fast. Now, Georgia Southern, to their credit, they gave Boise everything they could handle. They went to Nevada, tough spot, and they beat Nevada 20-17. They end up with a 42-14 win against South Carolina State. And I've talked about J.C. French a couple of times at quarterback. He's actually played pretty well for them. I mean, and 3-0 against the spread as well this year for Georgia Southern. 3-0 against the number. J.C. French has played okay. Now, this is Ole Miss on the road. I think Georgia Southern could score 7, 10, maybe even 14. And then I think Ole Miss is going to put up another huge-ass crooked number. So the over could be in play here, and you're going to get pace. So high total 66, but I still lean over. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, like can Georgia Southern score, which the last two couldn't. Middle Tennessee, we know their problems, but wait, I thought maybe he could get something. So that's good to see with this Ole Miss defense. Now, is it for real? I mean, the schedule ends up good. I mean, they're home next week to Kentucky. They're at South Carolina and LSU. I think those are winnable games for them. How can you go wrong? This offense has looked money. They've been great against the number. I think they won 5 or 6 straight dating back to last year. Man, yeah, Jackson Dart. This the whole thing's rolling, especially that defense. Like I don't know if Georgia against Georgia Southern, if they score a little bit, this will go over. If they don't, if they only can put up 10 points or something, this could stay under. As much as Ole Miss probably names their number and scores, 45, 50. So yeah, Ole Miss. Until I see something different, how can you not go against them? The Georgia Southern, they've been able. That offensive line's pretty good. They can move the ball, and what they did against Boise was impressive. What they had, they threw for 322 in that game, 139. So, is the Ole Miss defense really for real? I think that's like the big one in this game.
They do play Kentucky, SEC opener.
Yeah, opener next week.
Conference opener next week, Ole Miss. So this could be. And by the way, both teams 3-0 against the spread to begin the season, both of them. So I'm definitely not betting aside here. But the over I'm interested in. All right, TCU, SMU. TCU, 2.5-point road favorites, 57.5. Are we finally getting a discount now with SMU? Buy low on a team that's kind of not underachieved. Well, they have underachieved. They were not supposed to lose to BYU a couple of weeks ago, but they did. Wasn't a good performance, but they're off a bye week, licked their wounds. An 18-15 loss against BYU is 12.5-point favorites. Rhett Lashley's confirmed to Kevin Jennings, I think, and that's the right move. I don't know what the hell's happened to Preston Stone, man. He is stone cold right now as an ice cold for this team. He's been brutal. I can't believe it. Like, this was expected to be one of the great quarterbacks this year in the country, or at least in the Big 12 or AAC, I should say, or ACC. That's where SMU is now. ACC, and he just hasn't played well at all, Preston Stone. So it's Kevin Jennings. He's definitely more athletic, more mobile, can run around in the pocket. His pocket passing ability has to get better, but he is the QB1 without a doubt, and we'll get the start now for SMU. It's probably a better option against this TCU team. I don't know. I think you're getting a nice little discount now on SMU. By week 2, extra time to prepare, lick your wounds. TCU laying points on the road. Last time they were laying points on the road was Stanford, and they didn't cover. They won by 7. Laying more than a touchdown. So I think I like the way this sets up for SMU. We're buying low. We're not going to throw this team in the garbage can just yet. Bounce back spot, bye week, changing quarterback. TCU's defense is still a little shaky to me. We saw it last week blowing that game against UCF 35-34. Still can't trust a team coached by Sonny Dykes as far as offense is concerned, or defense, I should say, is concerned.
Yeah, the defense.
Holes with that Horned Frogs defense. So I like the way this sets up here for SMU. Maybe the over, too. Buy low on this offense to come out storming with the quarterback change to Jennings. So over, and I lean SMU as well. C-Mac, what do you think?
I'm on the over here. This is, I think this is you 3 or 4 points too low. TCU they don't have a great defense. Secondary, and there with Hoover can still throw it around. I think it was a little more like BYU in that game a couple weeks ago. That game went under. But the extra week here, the layoff, I think the offense will be pretty good because I just think they kind of get into a shootout in this one. And I think we're getting a bargain at this number. We just need Jenkins. Yeah. Hey, 2 quarterbacks. I'm so good with getting away from that with Stone. So Jennings, I think he'll be all right, but I think turnovers, both these guys, and Hoover just throws it around. And I think he will here. The last time these teams met up last year, it went under 34-17, but this has just been an over series. This has just been, these games are like 42-35 constantly. This total's too low. I'm on the over.
Yeah, I think good bounce back for SMU and the offense. And by the way, SMU and TCU 17th and 20th, respectively, in plays per minute this season.
And their bad defense. That's what you want to see. Like the 3 or 4 that check the boxes. Where SMU might not have this best offense, but against a bad secondary in TCU and a defense, they're gonna get points. This week.
I'm not totally sold yet on Josh Hoover, but I think he is playing a little bit better this year than he did last.
He still turns it over, but hey, he throws it around. Like he's just
points to the
gunslinging. He just gunslings it around the lot. You know what I mean? What's he had here lately in all these games? 402 against UCF.
Oh, yeah.
260. Yeah, I mean, he just 353 against Stanford. We know Stanford bad defense against the pass, but yeah, I think he has success.
All right, this is Tennessee and Oklahoma SEC matchup here. This is on ABC. This is your Saturday night primetime game on ABC with Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit. Oh, and Ben. Can't forget Ben the dog. I'm sure he'll be there in the booth too. Kirk's little.
Yeah, you gotta have the dog.
Yeah, gotta have the dog. Yep. Tennessee 7-point favorites here, 58 the total in this game down in Norman. I'm still not liking what I'm seeing at Oklahoma's offense. I'm still not loving what I'm seeing from Jackson Arnold. I still think the offensive line is struggling to protect and run block effectively. And that would concern me about taking Oklahoma in this game against, by far, with all due respect to Houston and Tulane and Temple, this is the best team you've played so far, and it's not even close. And this Tennessee team looks legit. And the last time I considered, and I actually did take a small piece of NC State because it got to 10, and I'm like, hasn't this number moved too high? And it didn't. Tennessee just smoked them, just absolutely waxed NC State in that game. Now, this is going to be tougher. Oklahoma does have a pretty good defense. Nico Iamaleava and that offense looks unbelievably incredible, potent, explosive, big plays galore. Can they do it against an elite defense on the road? Maybe they can. I really believe in what I'm seeing from him. He looks legit. He can throw. He can run. They're lighting it up every week. I'm not making the mistake of grabbing all the points with the big home dog against Tennessee like I did last time. I think there's a reason they're laying a full touchdown here on the road. I'm not saying I'm laying it with Tennessee, but I'm definitely leaning that way. C-Mac, what do you think?
The only thing is Tennessee has played nobody and no competition. Like, I even think NC State's kind of like...
State's not what we thought, and they've had O-line issues.
Yeah, they're not very good right now. They're just not kind of a classic, decent, even NC State team. And look, you got to play who's in front of you. The kid's very good. Nico, the quarterback, he's looked great. The defenses look good. Is this defense going to go here on the road and play well? I don't know. I don't know if they can, because I still have all these question marks with Oklahoma. I thought against Tulane they were pretty good. Jackson Arnold was decent, but there's still holes with this team. This is such a tough one for me. As much as I think like people are just run and bet Tennessee, sometimes you need to look at it a little bit more. But sometimes they're just the better team. And they're right now, their defense, this offense is humming. It's just not the easiest place to walk in there and win by more than the touchdown.
Saturday night too. It's a night game. Yep.
Night game. I mean, this is big time. So they go in there and do that. Now you got my attention for sure.
This is definitely a great game to watch. I don't think I'll be betting it because Tennessee.
I don't know if I am either. I don't know if
Oklahoma correlates with under, and I don't want to bet any of them.
Yeah. I mean, people that love Tennessee are going to bet them, but yeah, I mean, I get it why they are, but I don't know. I've seen enough college football bet it, where it's a little bit too good to be true. When it's too good to be true,
if they get behind by 2 touchdowns or more, they're fucked coming back. I think their O-line's not very good.
Maybe, yeah. Their O-line isn't great,
so to keep them in it, start to finish, if they're going to cover this number. Period.
Yeah. A good watch though, for sure. Like you're telling me, huge game.
Great game. It is a great game to watch. I'm looking forward to it. All right, UL Monroe, Texas. Texas 44.5-point home favorites, 53 the total. Texas absolutely demolishing UTSA last weekend. You can definitely tell UTSA's down a little bit this year. Quinn Ewers gets injured in the first half. No problem when you got Arch Madness on the bench to come in. Arch Manning, what a performance, man. This guy's going to have one heck of a college career. Presumably, you would think at Texas after this year because this is Quinn's last year. But it doesn't look like a long-term severe injury for Quinn Ewers. Day-to-day, there's a very good chance he's actually back and starting here for Texas against UL Monroe. So this is not the beginning of the Arch Manning era. This Quinn Ewers is not out for the season. In fact, there's a chance he might be back for this game. I'm just going to come back to the well with what I bet last week with Texas. Over 53. I think they're capable of getting to this total all by themselves against UL Monroe, who I know had that big win, and I like Brian Vincent and that big win they had against UAB. I took them as a dog, but now you're going on to the monster or the mosh pit here in the Lions Den here against Texas with that defense that I still don't know is that good. UL Monroe. You played UAB and Jackson State. I mean, my goodness, talk about a huge step up. So I like the over. I think Texas can get 52, 56 all by themselves, regardless of whether Ewers plays or it's Arch Manning again. And I think they'll take care of most, if not all, the total by themselves here. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the number's starting to creep up here now, 44.5, but I mean, they've just been that good. And kind of dating back to into last year, before that game against Washington, what they've covered, 6 of 7 or 7 of 8. Yeah, it doesn't matter who's, I think, in. Manning looked good. That run was great that he had when he came right in and busted that 60-yard run. And they're the real deal. And I think their next game, they're off. They have a week off. Oh, it's just next week or the 28th. Yeah, against Mississippi State, I think. And then at Oklahoma.
Yeah, next week, Mississippi State. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's another cupcake.
First SEC game for them next week, Texas. Yeah. Yeah.
So I just keep rolling with Texas. My guy, General Booty, he could be Booty here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he just could be flat ass Booty in this one. As great that win was,
UAB, but you're right. This is a different animal altogether.
Yeah. They have to run it, which I don't know. Like Monroe needs to be able to run the ball. I don't know if they can really do that. And then when they get behind, I don't know if Booty can throw it around.
9.
I got General Booty.
UAB, the 87.
Yeah, I mean that's what I know.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, it could be Booty exactly. Yeah, the good stuff there. Yeah, that's one of the best names in college football. 100%. General Booty. All right, Northwestern and Washington. Next up here, a little Big Ten matchup here. Washington 10.5-point home favorites, 43, I should say, the total. I'll tell you what, since Braun's been the coach here at Northwestern since the beginning of last year, getting points with them and getting bigger points has been the way to go. I ain't laying 10.5 with Washington. Will Rogers is still getting used to the offense. Sometimes it looks good. Sometimes they go through spurts where they're struggling to move the ball and finish drives. I don't think the defense is as good this year for Washington. They struggled with the Cougars in that Apple Cup loss. And by the way, Jed Fish, what are you doing with doing RPO and quarterback run with fucking Will Rogers? Noah Fafita and fucking Jaden Delora and all these other quarterbacks you had at Arizona, they're not walking through the door, man. That's not Will Rogers' game. It's throwing the ball. Pocket passer. I mean, I don't know what made him think that. And I like Jed Fish, done a nice job, but that was peculiar to me, doing so much RPO shit with a guy like Will Rogers. That's not the right fit for him, as a quarterback. So, I look at this as I like Northwestern usually when they're in this kind of price range. I'm not the biggest Mike Wright fan. I'll admit that, the Vanderbilt transfer. He's still an erratic passer. But I like the way they've been able to run the ball at times, and I like the way their defense has played. I think their defense has played better than I thought. Even the loss against Duke, I mean, for most of that game, they kept Malik Murphy and the Duke offense under wraps. The good performance against Miami the first game. And again, Northwestern has just been absolutely spectacular in this double-digit dog roll. Go back and look at all the times they were a double-digit underdog last year, and look how good they were. So I'm definitely leaning Northwestern here with the points. C-Mac, what do you think?
Man, Washington, I think they just kept shooting themselves in the foot, in that game. And I'm glad we got not that Washington State played bad, but 16 penalties for 135. 16 penalties.
Too many.
Just
can't win that.
You can't win. I mean, Fish said afterwards, some of the play calls down there and at the end of the game, down by the goal line, just were awful. Because you know what? They outgained Washington State. I mean, Rogers threw it around 326 in the air. They ran for 126 on 31 carries. This total's low. I kind of lean that this game's tight, and that makes me lean to the dog. I hate to say it because it could be ugly, but I don't have enough trust in Northwestern here. This is kind of a tricky spot. I know what does the Washington team do after the Big Apple Cup? They lose it, and then are they hot and ready to roll here? Or are they still a little bit hungover and sleepy after a game where they just horrible mistakes cost them? So just a tough one for me here. I am off. I don't know if Northwestern is this good, can get this done here. What do you think?
You know what? Actually, I forgot about this, and I'm looking at the box score because I didn't see a second of the Eastern Illinois game that Northwestern played last week. They made a quarterback change after the Duke lost. Last week against Eastern Illinois, Jack Losh played at quarterback.
Yeah, they had Losh in.
They're already fed up with Mike Wright. I don't blame him.
That was never gonna.
That was never going to happen. But David Braun made the quarterback change last week to Jack Losh, and Jack Losh is going to start here.
Did they yank Wright, or did he get hurt? Real quick.
Upgrade C-Mac automatically has to be.
Yeah, maybe. But did Wright get hurt, or did they yank him?
Quarterback coach's decision.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. I actually like Northwestern a little bit more now. Now I know there's on the roads capable team Washington, but we'll see how he does. Still a young quarterback, but he can't be worse than what Mike Wright was serving up there. I'll tell you that right now. I actually like this for Northwestern. But what was Mike Wright? One intercept. He had no touchdowns in the first two games against Miami.
Yeah, he didn't move the ball.
No touchdowns, one interception. Yeah, 20 of 36. No touchdowns and an interception against Duke. 55% complete. Yeah, I get it. And that's Mike Wright in a nutshell. If you want the 0 touchdown, 1 interception, 56% completions rate quarterback, that's your guy, Mike Wright. And David Braun said, that's it, enough. I agree with the decision. All right, let's move on here. We got Utah and Oklahoma State. It's fun to rip quarterbacks when they suck, especially when you lose some money on them. Utah and Oklahoma State. We've got
it's a great pastime.
Yeah, it is. It's a great 100%. One of my favorite pastimes. Yeah,
Monday morning quarterback. Yeah,
no doubt. We've got Oklahoma State. Pick them at home against Utah. The total in this one, 52. I got to admit, I'm worried for Kyle Whittingham here without Rising. Sorry, Isaac Wilson's not doing it for me. He's just not. He wasn't good at all in the second half against Baylor, the game where Rising got hurt. You look at last week against Utah State. That was obviously a struggle for sure from the offense again of Utah. So big time question marks now. 38-21. I know they got it going eventually, but Isaac Wilson still in development. Will they be able to run the football? Micah Bernard, you could do it against Utah State. Can you do it on the road against Oklahoma State? I will say this, with this game being on deck for Oklahoma State and coming off the big overtime win against Arkansas, the way they played against Tulsa, I couldn't be more impressed. I couldn't be more impressed because that's the clear as day spot for them to kind of go through the motions. And they pounded the fucking piss out of Tulsa. 45-10. They dominated them. They did whatever they want. Alan Bowman, who's not always one of my favorite quarterbacks, just shredded that secondary of Tulsa. And it was dominance from start to finish for Oklahoma State. I think there's a chance that Oklahoma State could win this. I don't trust yet Isaac Wilson on this is first road game against a power team. I don't count Utah State. That was a road game. This is much tougher, much better team. One of the best teams in the Big 12, Oklahoma State. Can Isaac Wilson move the football enough and do enough on offense in a tough environment on the road is the question. I know Utah's a capable defense too, but Ollie Gordon running it, Bowman, playing better at quarterback. Tough spot for. And I said all along, even though I liked Utah coming into the season to win the Big 12, I also thought Oklahoma State would be a nice dark horse chance to win this conference too. I'm not stepping in front of Oklahoma State. They look really good. And Mike Gundy, hats off to him. This is a really nice football team he has. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, these teams have never even played before, right? Ever.
First time ever? Yeah, I think so. Yes.
I think
First
so.
time ever in history of these programs that they're facing off against one another. Utah, Oklahoma State.
It's just now here on the road, if Wilson's, I don't think Rising's back.
No.
I think it's a few more weeks from everything with his hand.
At least. That's what I heard. Yep.
Yeah, me too. So if it's Wilson, it's Oklahoma State. If you like Utah, you'd have to think you'd be on the under if they're going to be in this game.
Yep.
Like their defense on the road needs to step up, and I don't know if they can. This seems cheap. Rising, whole different story. This seems cheap here for Oklahoma State. And yeah, that was a big win.
They're holding the door open for Rising to play, but
I've looked at that.
I'm not.
Yeah. Take that out you will. I mean, it's a huge game. I'm sure they're trying to do whatever. I mean, that's what I've been looking at too last night and this morning. But I don't think he can get back. And Oklahoma State, that was a great win. Just dominate. One thing is they haven't got and they were up 45-0. Savannah, like this last couple 10 points. It's just at the very end. Gordon hasn't even really got going at all to start the year. I mean, he had another just 10 carries, like 45 yards. Didn't really need him. But Bowman, he's been good. Can he keep playing this well? And it's against a pretty good defense. Oklahoma State, for me, here in this one, and I lean under. I don't know. I don't know if I move on the under. I just am kind of leaning that way, but I think Oklahoma State wins this game.
All right. Next up, Arizona State, Texas Tech. Red Raiders 3-point home favorite, 60 the total. Another case of a 3-0 ATS team, this being Arizona State. I ain't fading a 3-0 ATS team. They're clearly undervalued. They're way better than people thought. Kenny Dillingham doing a nice job. Scattaboo, a great running back. And this Sam Levitt kid, what a quarterback. He can throw it. He can run it. He's mobile. It's kind of like Mateer and Levitt, these two lanky white kids, and they can run like lightning, these two fucking guys. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Sam Levitt, too, for Arizona State. Look at the way he was running against Texas State. That was a great win, too. On the road for the first time. Texas State's a really good team. Arizona State to win that game, very impressive. Yeah, it's ASU or pass for me. And I think they got the better defense, too, than Texas Tech. So perfect ATS. They're undervalued. They've been way undervalued all season. I ain't stepping in front of them. Arizona State or nothing for me, and I lean over. C-Mac, what do you think?
I think you might be right, and I get why you love it. That game was so difficult last week. And then we saw the move, though, to Texas State. When it got to 3, I thought Arizona State kind of was the move. And a great game, a tight game. Kind of came down to turnovers in that one. I'm not huge. This Texas Tech defense has issues. And I don't love the hook, but I'm on the other way here. Texas Tech at home, big win last week. Their defense is my lone issue here.
You're stepping in front of the 3-0 ATS team.
Hey, sometimes I got to do it because how good this team plays at home. But I have question marks with them. That's why the 3 a little bit, I mean, right now, everywhere, there are 3.5s and 3s as we're here. Do you know?
3. It's 3. Yeah.
It's basically 3. Okay. Yeah. I kind of like Texas Tech in this one. You know what I like more, though? The over. I think this is too light. I think this is a few points too light. They're right here at 60 or so. I think both teams can score really at will. Arizona State's defense, you mentioned, might be a little bit better. This is just a tough spot, I think, for them. And I don't love going against it, but I have to here. This is the other way, Texas Tech, and I kind of just like the over a little bit more. I don't know if I really go crazy with Texas Tech on the side, but I think we get points in this one.
And I've gone against Arizona State a couple times. I took what a bad bet that was. Wyoming,
you took Texas State
of the year, and I took Texas State a little bit last week.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I'm respecting what the Arizona State's done right now, and like I said, I still don't think Texas Tech's got much of a defense. I know they played better against North Texas.
They don't. They don't.
And they're.
And I've only backed Arizona State, so this is a little bit of a flip for me.
And you got Baron Morton on one of his good days. What if you get Baron Morton, the 2-3 interception Baron Morton here? Yep. That's
What if we see Levitt, though, another road game? Right, let's see him. Yeah. I mean, so good game here. This is
I like the over too. That we do agree on that. We like the over. We think points in that game. All right, Vanderbilt, Missouri. Missouri 21-point home favorites, 53.5 the total in this game. This feels like buy low stock on Vandy. Diego Pavia and all those points. I know they had bad loss to Georgia State. You shouldn't lose that game. That was terrible for them. But their offense still moved the defense, though. I don't know what happened, but just not good. My Canadian man, what a performance by him. Christian Veilleux out of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, for Georgia State at quarterback. Played great against Vanderbilt. The whole offense, 36 points. Bad job by Vandy on defense. 269 through the air for Christian Veilleux. And Georgia State with over 400 yards. Man, not a good performance for Vandy. But let's not forget, they also have a win against Virginia Tech as home underdogs under their belt. We saw Missouri finally play someone halfway decent against Boston College. They only won by 6, didn't cover. Missouri's got Texas A&M on the road after this. Now, Vandy does have Alabama, too, but that's a bye week. Actually, Missouri's got a bye week. Both these teams are going into a bye week before their next game after this. I'm still leaning Vandy. You're getting a discount now because they lost to Georgia State last week. And Diego Pavia, quarterback we like, getting plus 21. He can go through the back door if you're down the game. So I lean Vandy here, lean over as well. C-Mac, I do worry about Vandy's defense against Brady Cook. Like if Christian Veilleux is lighting up your secondary, what's Brady Cook and these receivers from Missouri going to do to you?
They light him up. Missouri wins, but you're right. Vandy this could be a backdoor type situation. I think this total is way too low. I know Missouri last week, I liked that under. Not only do I like BC, I kind of like that under. It stayed under. It just wasn't one I moved on right around 53. And, and I think it's a little bit off the Murray State and Buffalo, some of these games. The defense is good. But I think Vanderbilt can score a little bit in this one. And Missouri, I think, gets in the high 30s, low 40s. And Vanderbilt can get theirs, too. I thought this total was too low. I think they can get up and over it. And Missouri wins. Do they cover the 3? This could be live. This one's a little tough for me in the end. Because Vandy's defense, Babano's just been awful. That last game was bad. With Pavia, he could move it a little bit. We saw Castellanos, a little bit of a struggle with him. I mean, they did contain him. It was 27-21 was a tight game we talked about earlier. So, yeah, I think Vandy, the back door could be definitely open in this one, but I think this one slips over here, especially even a Missouri team total. Maybe I just stick that route, their team total here. Team total.
That's an interesting game, Vandy and Missouri. Looking forward to that. No doubt about it. Speaking of the interesting games, a little Big Ten on CBS. This is probably the best game Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler have done on the CBS time slot. This will be better than Notre Dame Purdue. That's for damn sure. They had to call that.
You think?
Blowout. Now they get this game, USC and Michigan. USC 6-point road favorites, 46.5. First trip as a Big Ten member to the Big House for USC. I think USC is definitely the better team, and I love Miller Moss, and I feel like it's USC or pass for me. Something about that defense, though. Are we ready to lay almost a touchdown? Big Ten road game. Michigan still Michigan, although Michigan defensively is still pretty solid. Offensively, there's issues. Davis Warren was terrible against Arkansas State. Sharon Moore's seen enough. He's already named it. We're going to have an orgy next Saturday at the Big House. Alex Orgy at quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines. They've made the quarterback change. I think it's definitely the right move. Like, I've seen enough of Davis Warren. Wasn't really that impressed. And you got more athleticism and mobility, at least, out of Alex Orgy now that he takes over. But look, USC's defense, look, the LSU game, they played well. How about Utah State? Incredible performance against Utah State. Like, they really legit, and D'Anton Lynn, really does look like he could be the right hire as defensive coordinator. They played very good on defense, and they're off a bye week. So Lincoln Riley and the staff have extra time to prepare. The one thing that concerns me is I think this USC offense could be really great. And Michigan, the one time we saw them play a really capable, great offense was Texas, and they got smashed. They got lit up. And I worry about that a little bit here. Like I say, I'm not sleeping on USC. I don't know if I lay the 6, but I'm not interested in the Michigan side. I can tell you that. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, this is tough. I love SC as the dog against LSU, and to see them even against a team like Utah State's very bad, but not to score anything. Where in years past that game, they'd give up a few touchdowns, but man, they'd win 52, but it'd be 28,
right,
or 21. That didn't happen. Is the defense for real here for SC? I'm not so sure. The Michigan offense, though, it's just there's problems here. It's just really big problems. Does this touch 7? We get 7 here. What do you think?
If it gets that high, then I might be.
Well, that's what I'm waiting for. If it touches 7, I'm on Michigan. That's what I mean. If we can get there,
for me, definitely.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting on a 7. If that, I'm going to take Michigan here. And I don't love this football team, but I think at home they bring everything they can. They already lost, to Texas. This game's huge, and I still think there's question marks at SC. We can't really crown them after an all right win. We just saw LSU. Probably should have lost that game to South Carolina. They were losing it. They did end up winning it. I don't know how great they are. Moss has been good. They have great weapons. The running backs good. The wide receivers for SC are really good. Robinson, all these guys. And I just have a problem with Michigan, their offense, and kind of the big play and throwing the ball downfield. We've talked about it all year. It's been an issue. But at home in the Big House, I catch the 7. I'm going to be on Michigan here because I think their defense can slow down SC. Yeah, here. And I kind of lean under. This total's where it's at. I lean under, and if I get a 7, Michigan.
Yeah, and part of me does think for as good as USC's offense is, Texas might be at another level on offense right now. And that was part of the reason why they shredded Michigan the way they did. In this kind of situation, we'll have to see if they're ready. And Miller Moss, too, big time. And remember, the LSU game was a neutral. It was not a true road game. This one is. So
that was in Vegas.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. But like I said, there's weapons galore for USC. I don't know what we're going to get out of Orgy. That's the thing. I just don't know. And
I don't know either.
It'd be markedly better than what we got out of Davis Warren. Because if Orgy is so fucking good, why was Davis Warren named the starter to begin with?
Warren, though, it could maybe make SC's defense look better. Maybe this is after 2. SC wins this game, then I'll go on and fade them.
Yeah.
Just because I think this win's big. It's just Michigan has the defense. Still, I think that's maybe not elite as last year's has a chance, but they don't have the offense. And Warren, last week, you saw it. He was awful. And he got yanked. He had 3 picks.
Yeah, it was terrible. He was. So maybe by default, Orgy has to be better. All right, UCLA and LSU. We've got LSU 25-point home favorites, 55.5. The total down in the Bayou. I mean, I loved it because it was an easy right side winner. Didn't even have to sweat it. 42-13 Indiana. I did not expect UCLA to look that bad. That was horrible. And what happened to the defense? Defense actually looked okay for UCLA, especially against, but maybe Hawaii was more to do with UCLA's defense looking good in that first game. They got ripped apart on the ground, through the air. Curtis Rourke was outstanding. They had no answers for Indiana's offense. And if you're struggling like that at home against Indiana's offense, I mean, the one thing about LSU is Garrett Nussmeier and the offense are still pretty good, and how are they going to slow that? This is one of those games where if I think I bet it, I'd take out the UCLA offense because Ethan Garbers is Ethan Garbage. I've said that before. He's just not very good. And that offense is pathetic for UCLA. Like even LSU's defense, which got carved up at times by Sellers in South Carolina last week, is UCLA going to be able to score enough? Because their offense looks putrid here in the early going this season. But that was ugly against Indiana last week. Rourke shredded that secondary. Nussmeier can probably do the same thing. Garber's just not very good or accurate. One interception as well. Couldn't run the football. I think if I bet this game, rather than laying the points or the full game total, I just go LSU team total over and not worry about LSU's defense and just bank on them scoring their points against UCLA. What do you think here, C-Mac?
I get that move. That if you like LSU, I'd look that way because I think they can move it. LSU, though, UCLA's been horrible. You love Garber's garbage.
Offense, but LSU hasn't been much better so far on defense, especially the last couple.
Yeah. I think this number's too big. And this is tough to trust UCLA. But I think if you don't lay it, just take LSU team total like you were talking about. Again, Nussmeier looked pretty good. 24-40. He had a pick.
He is a hell of a receiver. I'll say that. They got a good.
Oh, Lacey, yeah, he's
neighbors there. Yep.
Yeah, they got Daniels. They got a few guys, but Lacey is pretty good. Anderson. The offense looked so bad last week with UCLA. Like if they could just do a little bit here, they cover. One thing you found out, and it's true. That's why I liked South Carolina last week. It's just laying points with LSU will not get you paid. I mean, they didn't even cover against Norfolk or whatever.
Nope.
In the second week. I mean, this kind of cruise to that win.
Right as favorites against USC. You're right. You can't lay points with this.
44-21.
No.
25 points is too many. Just go team total.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
UCLA here. I mean, if you take the dog, I take the points here.
It's one of those games where UCLA can cover and LSU can still go over their team.
Oh, yeah.
I can see both happening. Yeah.
I mean, if Indiana got all that, and the defense, which was pretty good last week, was just Rourke looked great. They're pretty good still against the run, but man, yeah, they got carved up at the Rose Bowl last week.
They sure did. All right, we go to the SEC where we have Florida and Mississippi State. Florida 5.5-point road favorites, 58 the total. So you want to lay points on the road with Billy Napier right now? Anybody? It's like Steelers' day off. Anybody? No fucking way. Not a chance in hell am I laying it with Florida. But do you want to take the team that just lost as a double-digit home favorite at home to Toledo in Mississippi State?
I would rather take them. How can you take Florida here?
No, you can't. But by default, Mississippi State would have to be the play for me, but I'm not doing cartwheels to take Jeff Lebby and Blake Shapen in Mississippi State right now. And that defense that just got ripped by Tucker Gleason, albeit a nice little quarterback there he is, but they can't be hanging those kind of points on you at home in Starkville, Toledo. I mean, my goodness, that's brutal. Maybe the over because you can't trust either defense right now. So maybe bet that. I'd put it this way. The lesser of two evils for me is Mississippi State. I cannot and will not endorse Florida with them chanting "Fire Billy" at the game and Billy Napier looking like he's a dead man walking in his press conference. He knows he's done. He knows it's just a matter of when. You can't lay points with a toxic team like that. No chance. So Mississippi State by default, but I don't love it. C-Mac, what do you think?
I don't love it, but I think this is it. You gotta take Mississippi State here.
Oh, man.
After being horrible though, in Starkville, I haven't seen them play. Maybe against a really big team, but not a team like Toledo and just get drubbed. How can you take this 2-quarterback system they got rolling with Mertz?
DJ Lagway may be good in time, but that's the key word, time. It's going to take time.
And they're dicking around by not giving him the job, I think. Just like, and he is fired, I think. I don't know. He's like walking to be fired. Like he's coaching, but he's just gone. I don't know how, I agree with you here. I kind of lean over, but I think Mississippi State, if I had to pick out of these two teams, it's them as home dogs here at Starkville.
Miami Notre Dame. We've got Notre Dame 27.5-point home favorites, 44 being the total in this game. Should we do this again? Here we go. Back to Notre Dame. Big 4 touchdown favorites against a MAC team at home.
No
what
way.
Last time that happened. Northern Illinois. Oh, yeah. Beat them outright as almost 4 touchdown underdogs in this kind of a price range. But the problem is Miami looks pretty fucking awful. And not the same team for Chuck Martin that won the MAC last year. They've looked pretty bad on offense. Let's be real. If they fall behind deep by 4 touchdowns or 5, they may not get through the back door against Notre Dame because Brett Gabbert looks like he's regressed. Like all these injuries have done a number on him. He's not accurate like he once was. Too many interceptions, bad decisions. The offensive line hasn't been great. Defense actually has hung in there, but can only hang in there for so long. And I worry about their offense moving the football here on the road. But I'm not taking Notre Dame.
There's no way.
No way at this price range at home. We saw it now. Northern Illinois is a lot better than, or could be better than Miami. Certainly at quarterback, I think they are right now. But offense is better for Northern Illinois. But yeah, this is just not the spot I ever have interest laying with Notre Dame. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, but you know what could keep it? Last week I didn't love a little bit how Cincy moved the ball. Like if their defense can play well here, they're going to cover against Notre Dame. And this is the same old song and dance. Big win. Like, does that help their offense look so good? But in the long run, you talk about the offensive line is guard. One thing is the Notre Dame defense is for real. Even was against Northern, they like not great. They kind of moved the ball there, and we talked about how we gave hats off to win the game, even to go down and get that last field goal. And they were throwing flags in that, trying to keep Notre Dame kind of hanging around in that Northern Illinois game there. Just no way. And Notre Dame looks great. This team just won 66-7. Don't you just lay it with them here at home, Havana? I mean, nothing. No way. Take the dog or pass here, Miami.
Yeah, it's a hold your nose, take Miami. Don't look good, especially on offense. They've underachieved so far, but we know Notre Dame's not the price range that we trust them in right here at home against especially off a 66-7.
Why is it at home, Notre Dame, and they're just sleepwalking there? Yep. Like maybe they've woken up and say, hey, we lost that game too. It's not like we just barely got by and won and covered.
No,
they can't.
Northern Illinois was a better team on the field. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So they can't come out here dicking around and in this one, or it could be low scoring and tight again.
It very well could. All right, next up we've got Bowling Green and Texas A&M. Maybe the under in that Miami Notre Dame game too. We'll see that Miami.
It's low, but yeah, I agree. Yeah.
That's my only concern. If they fall behind, they're fucked, I think, with what I've seen out of Miami O's offense. All right, Bowling Green and Texas A&M, but I still lean Miami O. Bowling Green, Texas A&M, 23.5-point home favorites, 52.5 the total. I lean Bowling Green, honestly. This team showed against Penn State, bigger underdogs. They can step up in class, hang tough. I was impressed with how they held their own in the trenches against a team like Penn State. They were not really pushed around to the extent that you would expect Penn State to be able to push around a team like Bowling Green. That just did not happen. Connor Bazelak, all these years of experience between Missouri and Bowling Green, they're showing up because he's playing well. Their offensive line is good. They've got some playmakers. This is not going to be a cupcake game for Texas A&M, even at Kyle Field, and you do have SEC games coming up after this. And remember, Bowling Green went to Georgia Tech and won outright as a huge 3-touchdown underdog last year. We saw what they did against Penn State just a couple weeks ago, wire-to-wire cover. Penn State, life and death to win that game as a 4-touchdown favorite. I like me some Mike Elko, but not in this price range and not against a scrappy bunch like Bowling Green. So I'm leaning BG here and the points. C-Mac, what do you think?
Bowling Green here and the points for sure. This team's been really good against the number. I was impressed even with the defense, and Penn State, had to kind of get it going there in the second half. You mentioned Bazelak, you got a quarterback that's been around for forever in this game. Texas A&M, I think their defense I think it's good, but maybe not great. And they switched to Reed. He's he's the guy
Well,
now.
that's the injury. Connor Wegman was
Due
injured.
to injury, yes.
He didn't lose his job. Marcel Reed came in, and Marcel Reed played
But
well.
his job might be gone. I'm just letting you know that. I don't think he looked great. Let me get to that. So, yeah, you're correct. But he looked well. But that was Florida. I think that was a big win. This is a sleepy spot. And, they covered last week. Before that, they had lost 6 straight. But, man, this team doesn't cover shit. I don't give a shit if it's on the road or at home. Texas A&M. Bowling Green in the 24 here. I'm on it.
Yeah, I mean, they've been great in these step-up spots, catching these big 3-touchdown, 4-touchdown underdog numbers against Power 4 teams. They've been great, Bowling Green, the last couple of years. So it's hard not to look their direction in this kind of a price range. All right, East Carolina and Liberty. Liberty, 7-point home favorites, 54 the total in this game. So here's a team that prior to last week, Liberty, they did not look the part of the team that went undefeated last year until, well, obviously in the regular season, until they got blown out by Oregon in the bowl game, but not the same Liberty team. 0-3 against, even last week against UTEP, they started strong and kind of cruised home. And something about Caden Salter, he's not been as sharp. The run game's not been as good. The defense hasn't been as great. The whole team, it's just there's something missing. They're missing that extra gear they had last year, Liberty. And Jamie Chadwell's bunch, I'm not saying they're still not very good, but there's a reason you're 0-3 against the spread. You've been very overvalued. They've obviously had this team power rated too high off the undefeated regular season last year, and they still haven't covered a number yet this year against Campbell, New Mexico State, UTEP. Yeah, 3-0 straight up, but 0-3 against the spread, Liberty. I kind of like ECU here. ECU's always a team I'm looking at back as an underdog. They covered as a dog last week. They won outright as a dog against Old Dominion. They're 2-1 on the season, this close to being 3-0. They could have won that App State game. Just couldn't make enough plays on offense with Garcia. But I have seen enough from Liberty where not quite that same Liberty bunch of last year. I would look at East Carolina here if I'm betting it, especially getting a full touchdown. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, East Carolina. It's just a great under team. The flip side, last year, Liberty just kind of seemed they could do what they wanted and games would go over. So I think the number, this total, was pretty sharp, even though I still lean under because East Carolina, if they're in this game, it's got to stay a little bit lower scoring. Liberty, it's just, it's like they're just like cruise walking, cake walking, these games, New Mexico State, Utah, and these are world beaters here that they're not covering these numbers. They beat New Mexico 30-24, 28-10.
New Mexico that lost everybody, and as a new head coach, and Tony Sanchez lost like 90% of
everyone. Yeah,
great New Mexico State team, and Liberty was life and death against them.
We talked on the top a little bit because App State, East Carolina, and just kind of how they folded. They jumped out, to that lead, and then just kind of had a horrible, really horrible second quarter. They were great right away in the first quarter after that pick six. Garcia has to take care of the ball, and is this Liberty defense that great? They're the better team in this, but I think so. And you know what? East Carolina's been good. Like I remember last year, was it Tulane? That was at home. But UTSA, they played some close games, East Carolina. I kind of love this over a touchdown, but I lean East Carolina as well. I think they could hang in this one a little bit.
All right, final game, Duke and Middle Tennessee State. We've got Duke 14.5-point road favorites, 53.5 the total in this game. My thoughts on Middle. This is one of the worst teams in the country. I said that before last week, and that was before what happened to them last week. What absolute annihilation, evisceration against Western Kentucky, 49-21. Lost to the Hilltoppers at home. 0-3 against the spread this year. Didn't even cover against Tennessee Tech in their opener as 24.5-point favorites and only won by a touchdown. This is a bad football team. This is a bad program. Vadiato stinks. He's terrible as far as quarterback play is concerned. Just the defense is even worse. They can't stop anything or anybody. Lay it with Duke. I have no qualms doing that. This is just a bad football team that's worth betting against every week until proven otherwise. And I know Duke is not, they only won by 5 against UConn as big favorites last week, but they did get a road win at Northwestern. Malik Murphy's getting, I think, more. Malik Murphy is still good enough to shred this defense, this Civ defense that Middle Tennessee has. They're not stopping anything. They couldn't stop Connor and I right now on that side of the football. So, yeah, for me, I've been fading Middle Tennessee multiple weeks already, including last week. Easy as can be with Western Kentucky laying 7 in that game. I'll lay it with Duke. I think Duke's very capable here, just being good enough, and Middle Tennessee State being bad enough to lose this game by well over 2 touchdowns. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of think Duke can cover as well. These aren't ones I rush to lay 2 touchdowns, but Middle Tennessee is just awful. Can this offense get anything done? Yeah, I was even shocked Northwestern scored. UConn against Duke, but last week that they had 3 touchdowns. But it was a little bit of a tricky game. I agree with you. This is probably not one that I bet, but I think Duke, better defense. I don't know how Middle Tennessee really scores here. And maybe even a Middle Tennessee team total under. They got to 21 against Western Kentucky. But Duke's got a defense that I think is pretty good. That I was shocked Connecticut even got 3 touchdowns. But, hey, sometimes you have some of those closer games. Look, Northwestern would have got nothing. That OT got it to 20. And dating back to last year, I thought they were all right, as long as they played to competition like this. So I get it. I'm probably off, though.
All right. There you go. That is this week's edition of Hitting the Books. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Just quickly run through everyone. Paula, Sweet Lou, Jerry Davis, Rance, Cheshire Cat, Robert Franklin, Sports Money, Myron, who else? Bama Boy, Ross Pitts, Kongs Clips, Ramon Scott, T-Mac, everyone else. Hit the like button. Thank you for watching on either Facebook, Twitter, X, or YouTube. Connor Mack, final words before we wrap things up.
Oh, let's have a week. I always love doing this. And let's just keep winning college football. I love it, man. I will see you next week. Let's keep it rolling.
No doubt. Another great show in the books. Again, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Tell everyone that we're here every Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific during the college football season. And then we're not going away when college football ends. We're flipping the page to college basketball. On this channel.
Also, not only subscribe, give us a like, and comment down below. Give us what you got, what you're betting, all that shit. We want to know in the comments. Do that.
No doubt. Comment, like, subscribe to the channel, all that good shit. And again, we love doing this show every Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, all season long throughout the college football season. For C-Mac, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great week. Enjoy the college football week 4 card. Enjoy the games and good luck. Cash some tickets. And we will see you next Monday once again for another edition of Hitting the Books. Class dismissed.